Dimp Digital presents Idle Game Chat.
Cool.
Hello, Apps here from Dimp Digital and welcome to Idle Game Chat. This is your September edition of Idle Game Chat and it's a very, very simple content spree here. It's all about Nintendo and the Nintendo Switch 2. We have had it for around 3 months now, so some of the guys return to the show to report back on their verdict. We're going to cover the hardware, the pricing, the games, the game cards, the download saga, all this kind of stuff is in this episode, and it is a complete Nintendo focus. So you're going to hear about Mario Kart World, you're going to hear about Donkey Kong Bananza, all sorts of stuff, all related to the Switch 2. So I know that will turn some people off, but there you go. It's a big moment every time we've got a console launch, and particularly when Nintendo do it. So it felt like the appropriate time. We've spent some excellent hours and many hours with the Switch 2, and we can report back on our findings. So I won't waffle too much. I always say that I won't, then I end up chatting for about 10 minutes, but that's not going to be the case here. As usual, if you've stumbled across this in some way, thank you. If it's on YouTube, if it's on your podcast app, if it's Spotify, whatever, just hit subscribe to whatever you've found us on, and you'll get the next month's episodes and any bonus episodes that we get off our asses to do. And if you want to support the show further, patreon.com/Dimp Digital is the place to go for that. Anyway, I'm going to keep to my promise, keep it short. Nintendo on the rise maybe, or not. We'll see. I'll see you on the other side. Here we are then, the Nintendo Switch 2 episode. I'm joined by Paper, who's been installed. Doesn't often come here, usually, I wouldn't say relegated, but on the FGL episode. But other than that, occasionally we'll get you in. In fact, the last time I think you came on was for Pokémon Violet, a load of games on Switch basically. So you're like the Switch expert now. You've sort of taken that mantle off of Hall.
Yeah, I don't know how this has happened. I think generally probably the rest of the team have to go away and have a look in the mirror, because if I'm being pulled up to do these type of things, then something's going wrong. But yeah, I'm happy to be here. I've spent quite a lot of time on the Switch 2 in comparison to the rest of my gaming life. I'm generally used to playing some MMOs, a little bit of Switch, and concentrating on the gaming league, because that's what's the most important thing in this group. But it's
Exactly.
which therefore means I don't play an awful lot of new releases. But you know, here I've been sucked in.
Yeah, 'cause I mean, you had a Switch, OG Switch previously, and then you'd sort of parlay that with PC, like you mentioned, with the MMOs and maybe the odd online game that we were doing, like a Valheim or whatever the flavour of the year was. There'd be a couple of those maybe throughout the year. But Switch does have, or Nintendo does have Pokemon, which always seems to grab you in. So it doesn't matter where Pokemon is, you'll normally find Paper lurking at some point. That's one of the big franchises he goes after.
Sniffing around Pikachu, that's what I do. It doesn't matter whether it's some cards, whether it's a game, whether if it's mobile, whether it's the anime. I keep up to date with a fair whack of it.
It's the way to do it. We've had about 3 months with the Switch 2, so it came a lot later than I thought it was. I thought it was going to get this last year, to be honest. So I stopped playing my Switch. I think you even sold yours off earlier, didn't you? Anticipating the Switch 2. But I stopped playing it probably over a year ago. In fact, 2 years ago at least. I was like, I'll just wait for the Switch 2. And then it got later and later. I was like, loads of games got to catch up on. But we've had this new device for about 3 months. What's the high-level thoughts of it? Just, not diving into too much of the details. We'll get into that. But I would say more of an evolution than a revolution. The Switch itself, the original, was the revolution. This is more of a, an evolved version of what we had before, which is either good or bad, depending on your opinion.
Yeah, it's definitely an evolution. from the Switch One. It's more of the same. You know, you hear that sometimes when games come out. That's a sequence of like people are like this. It's more of the same, and I think that's where we are actually within the hardware of the Switch itself. They've upgraded the most of everything. It still has a few things that I think people are a little bit unhappy with, and I am as well. But like and we'll dive into that a bit later. But generally, like impressions are good. It does what it says it does on the tin. I think it caters for, which Nintendo does well, a magnitude of gamers wanting to game in different ways where other gaming platforms haven't ever got to that. It's other game platforms have definitely been on your TV or in your handheld, or maybe more for the mature, maybe for getting a PC. You're not gonna have a PC when you're a young kid. Generally, it's quite expensive. Whereas Switch is a lot more, and it's like is that sort of Nintendo family friendly device that that I think we've come to love.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned the price there. Let's get some thoughts on this, because when it released, it was, what was it, $395 or $396? I think it was. I think it was $395.99 on its own, and there was a bundle at $429 or $430, I guess, 430 UK pounds, that had Mario Kart World in it. Now, just a reference, the original came out at 280 quid or 340 quid with Breath of the Wild. So this is a bit of a steep climb up. What was your thoughts when you first saw the price, and was it ever like that's on the high end or the low end, or was you kind of expecting, with the way that prices generally have gone, that okay, it's under 500, it's actually under 400 if you don't want to get Mario Kart World and select something else? Where do you see yourself on the console hardware price itself when it launched?
I personally wasn't that worried about it. Generally, like, I can see that it's gone up, but then over the last several years, inflation has sent quite a lot up in a lot of places around the world.
If you do the inflation calculator, it's cheaper than the original Switch, but people say they've got less money these days because they've been shafted elsewhere. That's the comeback.
Yeah, like that's, your groceries are going up, and your bills are going up. I generally think it's probably well priced. I think it was probably, if it having the console without a game, if it'd gone past the 400, if it's like 450, even 499, that would have been probably too much, like considering the audience that they're aiming at it for. Like generally you got there's a lot of, say, different gamers, but actually a good percentage of Switch gamers are younger kids that don't have jobs, that don't have money, and so you're then looking for mums, dads, birthday presents, Christmas presents. How, like, 400 quid is quite a lot for a Christmas gift for the majority of people in the world, and so so then you're thinking about, well, maybe it's a sharing device across the family and stuff like that. But I generally think where today's market is, and I know people will moan and maybe people will disagree, I think it was probably fair in relation. People were happy with where it was before. Inflation's happened. It is where it is now. Some people had, I think it's they've just changed it for the price of it in the States because of tariffs. I think that's just recently happened, but it's like all of these things going on globally, unfortunately, has an impact on gaming. I'd love to be able to go back to a day where it wasn't that, but actually, I'm okay personally.
Yeah. When I first saw it, I was like, that's fine for the most part. Like, yeah, it would have been the original. I think 280 quid, even back in those times, 2017. I thought that was an absolute steal at the time. To get that one, and obviously we had the reductions that happened throughout that generation, the Lite and the OLED and all that sort of stuff. I do think with this one, like if you look at the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, the cheapest time to buy it was when they first came out. They've all gone up since launch because of inflation and now tariffs and whatnot. So that was my thinking as well, is that even if I'm not going to be using this as a main device for 12 months a year, if something comes along I simply want to or have to play, then if I wait 6 months or 12 months, there's a chance it'll be gone up in price, because that's just the way electronics seem to be going, or at least console gaming seems to be. It gets more expensive after release.
Yeah, so. And I suspect with this console as well, we'll see a similar type of game plan to how they did with the Switch One, because it seemed to work quite well. As in, with your device that you was it the lights on the Switch, where they were just like one device, you couldn't take the sticks off. I suspect that will come to the Switch 2 as a cheaper version that costs like 250 or whatever.
Yeah.
And but then equally I suspect there will be more versions with an OLED and potentially better battery life for a handheld in mode that will come in 3 or 4 years, that will be, £100 more than what it is today. So I'm very much suspecting that that will happen. This just feels like the middle of the road and where they'll base everything on moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. Shifting gears very slightly, thoughts on the price of the games, because this was also a big controversy or a talking point when the system first launched. Basically, Mario Kart World, and I'm talking RRP here, and it's different with physical because the shops can undercut the RRP, but for argument's sake, it was listed as an RRP of $74.99, 75 UK pounds if you went for physical. On the Nintendo online store, it was $66.99, so 67 UK pounds. That was like the headline game. That was the game. That's the first game that's been released that's breached like the £70 mark, like standard AAA games on a PS5 are 70. Microsoft are going to do 80. They said $80. Whether that'll be 80 quid, I don't know. Probably be 75 quid. But they backed out of that with the Outer Worlds 2. But yeah, what was your thoughts on that? Because and there's a difference this time round with the price of digital and physical for some of the games, which seems a bit of a it's not actually it makes perfect sense for them because they'll make more money if you buy it digitally. But as a consumer, was you a bit like, hang on a minute, I like my physical and I'm getting a premium here? Or is it like, well, actually you can often find the physical ones a bit cheaper if you look around and there's sales in different shops and whatnot, so it's not too bad?
Yeah, I think it's I think this is just a general gaming question in general, more so than the Switch. Obviously, the price of games are just in general going up, but then people are expecting more for that, and that takes a greater human power. We talked about inflation, and unfortunately, sending out digital copies, not a digital version, not digital version, sending out a physical version. There's a whole lot of things that goes on behind the scenes with supply chain, actually manufacturing, getting it to stores, the people involved in that. That's all got to be a part of the cost, and therefore digital is cheaper. But I suspect, as you mentioned, they are making more on digital copies than physical copies. Which is a shame. I myself quite like the physical side of it, and and we'll probably come on to it later. But like, I was the type of person that bought the Switch without the Mario Kart, but then went and bought the physical version of, so I could have the physical version of Mario Kart. So it cost me more than most, but it's definitely on the cusp. I don't know when it's going to end. I suspect it's going to keep going up. Like with GTA coming out, there's talk that could be the first £100 game, $100 game, whatever we want to call it. But for the Switch, it does make it harder. As I said, this is meant to be sort of that more family-friendly focused console. You do want games to be more reasonably priced so that the younger lot can have some. But it becomes harder then for them, because if they got to pay suddenly, like we're talking £400 for the Switch, and then suddenly you got to pay 70 odd pounds for Mario Kart, that's just one game. I do think, however, and sometimes people don't think of these other things, that actually if you go to the Nintendo store and put it in reverse, there's games there for 69 pence and stuff like that, actually you have greater access today to games, and therefore there's a lot more competing games. It just happens to be usually the big ones, the triple A's, know that a lot of people will want to play them, and a lot of people will want to play them on release, so can get away with it for a good period of time. And Nintendo, interesting enough, their AAA games, their Donkey Kongs, their Mario Karts, their all those type of stuff, generally hold that value for a lot longer than a AAA coming out on a PlayStation or an Xbox. So whereas you're on some of the other consoles and you might be like, you know what, I'll wait 6 months or
Yeah.
whatever. To be honest, sometimes even 3 months, and I'll buy it because it's already gone on sale. And you got it for, instead of being 70, you can get it for like 35 or whatever. Like Cyberpunk is a key example of that. You don't tend to find that too much with Nintendo games. And so yeah, you sort of have to bite the bullet there. And I think they sort of know that they've got you.
Yeah, it's strange though because Mario Kart World was 75 quid physical, but Donkey Kong was 67 physical, and then even cheaper in the store at 59 digital. So they clearly internally have tiers of the game and say, right, this is worth more than Donkey Kong. I don't know. Maybe it's because of popularity. Maybe it's because of prestige. I don't know. I mean, I would argue that Donkey Kong's a far better game than Mario Kart World, but that's just more of a preference thing. So it was. I was surprised when I saw the price of Donkey Kong for it not to be the full whack. You know, asking for the 75 for physical and the 77 or the 67 for digital, but it was under 60 quid for the digital version. So I don't know what's going on there. Clearly, they've internally they make a decision and go, right, this won't sell as many, so we'll sell it a bit cheaper and hope to sell more. We know that Mario Kart's going to just sell the most probably of any game of the entire platform. So let's just fleece them.
But I think also taking a step back and looking at the two games, one is a game that doesn't need some level of server support consistently, whereas Mario Kart Online will need it. And so in my mind, I distinguish it in Mario Kart, you're probably paying extra for the upkeep of that game, because ultimately, as soon as they turn it off, you can't do your online, racing and stuff like that anymore. Whereas Donkey Kong is just a co-op game anyway, or a single player mainly, but it's that doesn't really need that level of server support that and I suspect that's probably how they justify it. I don't think that was very clear though.
No, it's I didn't mind it because I was going to get Donkey Kong. That was the one I was looking forward to. I was like, oh, that's a bit cheaper, that's more palatable, so it's been interesting to. I imagine Zelda will be full whack. Pokemon, I don't know if they've released.
Yeah, they have released the costs, and actually I think I haven't got it up in front of me. Maybe you can quickly look, but I think that's more. I think it actually might be cheaper than Donkey Kong. I think it might be in the 50s, maybe.
Yeah. That's coming to both though, isn't it? OG Switch and
yeah, you are
Switch
paying
2.
more for it on Switch 2 than OG Switch as well. I think it's like a £5 increase. I'm yet to pre-order because I just have to do it, but that's I've been looking at that. So.
What's it? Is it X and Y, or is it what one's this?
No, it's AZ. ZA.
Sorry, one of those way rounds.
XY was a few generations back.
Yeah, that's what I kept bringing up.
Because it's not actually mainline game. It's more like Arceus, where it's sort of like an offshoot.
Yeah. So look here. I've gone on the store and it's coming up at 50 quid, but I'm sure that must be the old version.
But
unless they're doing a free up, are they doing a separate version or a free? This is where I get a little bit confused with it, if I'm honest, with the whole what's got a new version, what's being updated. But
it's a new game, so it doesn't have a new version.
No, but is it just the Switch version running on?
No.
Switch
You can
2?
buy a Switch 2 version and Switch version. I don't know if there's any difference. But like the box, obviously, it comes in will be different if you buy the physical copy.
Right.
I don't know whether there's a notable upgrade in terms of performance, like Pokemon.
Nintendo Switch 2 edition it's called, and that's $58.99 on the download. And just check one store. I mean, looks like it's lurking for $52.95 on Amazon. So
yeah,
physically, I mean. So yeah, they even with Pokemon, they're not going full hog, and that's one of those games I thought they would better get away with it. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see that. On the physical side, also there was some hoo-ha about game keys, download keys, the cart not having the game itself on the cart itself. As a physical collector, is that a botherance to you or not? Because some people buy physical because they want to be able to have the preservation that if everything goes offline, they can just put it into a console or a device that's powered up by electricity, but you don't need the internet to download it or to play it. You can just play it off the physical item you've got. Whereas others that are collecting probably don't care too much about that unless unless that is considered in in 20 years' time when people are looking to retro collect these. I don't know if the prices will be lower because people will be like, well, you can't play it because the Switch 2 is offline or whatever. I don't know. It's always a bit of the conversation around it's always like the end of the world of the situation. But you're a physical person, so when you saw this, was you like, hang on a minute, what are you playing at? Or was you like, as long as I can play the game, I just want the physical item more than the functionality of it coming off the cart every time?
No, I like it coming off the cart personally.
Right.
Not that I think there's this. I'm not one of some people that think there's some big conspiracy and what happens if everything goes, or what happens if they
No.
slightly change it when you download and stuff like that. I just don't know. I like the idea of that. I know that I own something and I can pick it up and put it. Generally, I'm sure if Nintendo didn't want us to play it more, they could brick the whole console if they really wanted
Just
to.
unplug it from the internet. That's the
Exactly.
only way. Disconnect.
Exactly. But it's even sometimes with these physical carts, you put it in and there's a little update that has to be loaded anyway, and that sometimes will come. I think for me, the reason I didn't like I'll call it the little bit of cardboard, but it's a bit more than a bit of cardboard. It's actually like a cart. It is just it loads a code in and then you can download it. So I could play it and then I could give it to you, you could put it in, and then you would be able to play it from that same code. And so ultimately what it would allow people to do is give it to play. I think places like CX is my understanding, or sell it on. And so you're technically selling on the code. You can't play it if you don't put that into your console. So you're not.
It's like that's a key to unlock it.
So it's like a key. It's like you put it in, you got it, and if you sell it on someone else or give it to someone else, they have to put it in to play it. And I think that's sort of a nice way around it for people that just want, I guess, more. There's people that like the boxes and the ability just to be able to pull it out and put it and not too worried about that type of stuff. I generally think it's a nice thing to do for some people, but I probably wouldn't do it. I think if it's as the case of one of those or just a download, I would probably just go download. I'm not that fussed in terms of physical. I like to know that my physical collection are things that I can just pull out and just play, and I don't need to download it if I don't need to download it. And hence why I quite like sort of like some of like the super rare game stuff that they used to do, or they still do on the Nintendo Switch, where it's just a smaller games just put onto a cart and you can put it in. I could download it from a store probably for 69p, but I end up paying like £40.
Yeah. So the actual cart's different then. The cart that comes in these download key ones is not like it's.
Well, I think they're very similar.
Yeah.
And I've not actually held one in my hand because I've sort of not dived into it.
No.
But, and so it must be relatively like a bit of plastic. But ultimately, my understanding is that all that's on it is the ability to say this is cart 00001 of Donkey Kong or whatever. Download it from the internet, and because you could, and I generally think a lot of the reason they're doing it and where it goes, they probably couldn't fit it on the cart. Maybe it's too big for the cart. Maybe there's a game that's coming out that you need to download it anyway because it's too big. And so there's probably some good reasons behind it. So yeah, it's a nice, I think, workaround or cross between the two. I think people are overly worried. Like, people get conspiracy theory very quickly when they see stuff like this, but I think they're just sort of covering more for more.
Yeah, I know Xbox have been doing that as well. There's been like, you buy the case and it's got a code in it, or it's got it's not loaded on the disc or something. And it's been happening a while. It's just, it seemed like there was a big hoo-ha. I think PlayStation generally try not to, but even there's examples of that knocking around as well. So
I think with the Xbox one, with what you're talking about with the code on the piece of paper, though, is once that's been used
that's it.
once, that's it. So you effectively may as well just, at that case, buy a digital. You're just buying a case to stick on a shelf, which is, it to me feels pointless. What I do like though on Switch is there is regulation around what the type of game is on the front of the Switch cover. So like, if you look at the box, if there's nothing there, that means you've got a physical copy. But generally, if there's some level of download or some level of, if it's a piece of paper inside and stuff like that, they have to, in big bold letters, put it on there. And actually they have to do that on the web shop stores as well. So if you go to buy a game, it's quite easy to distinguish between whether it's a physical copy, which is on the cart, and a physical copy that's not on the cart, or if it's a piece of paper.
Interesting. I'm never going to use this, I don't think. But one of the things they try to kind of placate people with was that you can now share your virtual game cards with other devices if they connect on the same network for 2 weeks. They can play the game, like trying to promote that you don't have to keep swapping the cart in and out, or you don't have to buy a separate version of the game if you've got 2 switches in the house or whatever. You can just loan it out. I'm not going to use that for various reasons. Adkins might do it if he ever has to get 2 of them, but is that enough to placate people that you can share temporarily a game with another device if they sync up once every few weeks?
I think so, because generally, if you like if you look at the likes of like Netflix or Spotify and stuff like that, these platforms have allowed you to effectively share movies around the house, or songs around the house, with other people generally in your family, because that's who it's probably catering more towards. It's those families that maybe have multiple devices that want to do different things, and actually has seen a massive reduction in that physical side of things. And so I think if Nintendo or whoever gets it right, that you can, and they know that, I guess the hardware's cheap enough that people feel comfortable going, I need 3 switches because I've got 2 kids, and then I need another one to give to my parents, and he'll come over once a week and he can update it and stuff like that, and you only need to buy 1 copy. Then I think you'll see an interesting case where hardware's been this level, and the games have been that, where you'll see a deduction. Actually, they try and get the majority of the income from the games. You have higher price point games where we're going, but on the back of that, you do need lower price point hardware so that people can buy multiple of them. So, and that's where it's gone. You can see in other media parts of the world.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. How do you think the Switch 2 will do in the long term? Because the short term, it's absolutely... Well, it's flying off the shelves, but you can still get them quite easily. I remember the Switch original, after the initial rush, they were really hard to get hold of. So I know they've manufactured more of the Switch 2s, but they're selling at a faster rate. They're selling more. I think in the US at least, it was the best console launch ever, and they've been able to kind of keep supply up, mostly with demand, and they're in and out of stock quite regularly. But are we just seeing all like the hardcores jumping on it early, and really what made the Switch one a 100 million seller, plus it's probably going to go on to sell more than what the PS2 did eventually, was that it retailed originally at 280, where they had the Switch Lite that brought the price down even further. People were buying multiple Switches in one household for kids or other people or whatever, so one household might have 2 or 3, but it felt like they were more at prices that were impulse purchases. Do you think we're going to see the same level of uptake for the Switch 2, or do you think the higher price point will keep families to saying, well, we're just going to get one, and then that's going to have to be it, because we can't be going around getting 2 or 3 of these things?
Yeah, I think the other interesting point to that conversation is the Switch went crazy at the start and was hard to get at the start because there was nothing before it. It was the first, and there wasn't... You couldn't play those games unless you brought a Switch, and it was cheap. And as you said, you got like the Switch Lite and stuff like that, which really helped parents be able to get to justify giving little Billy Bob his own Switch, and so he didn't have to pick up his dad's or whatever and stuff like that, because he could have the light version.
That is Adkins. That is typical Adkins playbook. As soon as a cheap one arrives, he's like, right, get that kid its own one. It's not
exactly, and so you can see what you're doing. Maybe the Switch 2 will go down the same path, but it will never be like the Switch 1, because with the Switch 2, even Pokemon ZA, which we were just talking about, is having a Switch 1 release. And so we're in that interesting thing where actually, and going back to the likes of like the PlayStations and the Xbox, where these consoles will cross over, but there's a bunch of games within about a 2-year period that will release it on both versions. And so you're like...
There's still PS4 games being made. There's still things coming out that are on PS4 as well, so it's not like they've got rid of them. Yeah,
exactly. So I think we're sort of in that place where, for when you're talking about your kids and stuff like that, yes, they might not be able to play Donkey Kong, or they might not be able to play Mario Kart World, but generally there should be a load of stuff on there already to keep them occupied. And as you said, it then becomes the kids that are the hardcore gamers or the adults that the hardcore gamers that really push towards getting this because they really want to play Donkey Kong when it first comes out, or they really want to play Mario Kart when it comes out, because the others they can continue and it's just
They
fine.
can
And
still
so
play Minecraft or Roblox or whatever else. That
exactly,
Fortnite
and you still got Pokemon to look forward to.
Yeah.
There's probably other things that are coming out as well on the Switch one that they can just be like, okay, well, there's no need for us to do this. And also, those games are coming out cheaper than the Switch 2. So from a parent perspective, you know, or someone that's potentially buying someone else it doesn't make much sense to move everyone over to Switch 2 straight away. So I suspect it will sell well, but I don't think it'll be anywhere near the Switch 1. Yeah, no idea.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. So how have you been playing the Switch 2? You handheld only, you docked only, you 50-50, or you mostly one, mostly the other? Because I think 99% of mine has been in the dock, and I only took it out once because it wouldn't let me sync my Pro controller with it without doing something on the Joy-Cons. But once I got that sorted, I just put it back in, and it's just sat in that dock. So I'm dock only for the most part, but what about yourself?
I am handheld 99% of the time. Interesting enough, and it's I've had this conversation with another friend who is docked only, and I think it just sometimes depends
Who's this other
on
friend? What are you talking? You haven't got any other friends.
just he's imaginary, but we had this
It's that little
conversation
bear sitting back there. I can see. What's
from
his
Mr.
name?
Bean.
That's
He's
it.
called
Is it?
it's called Bear or something. I don't know. Ted or something. I don't know. I had it when I was a kid, and I found it
Yeah,
when
no,
I
I
went up
remember
in the
it.
loft. But yeah, it's I think it's an interesting one, and I think this is where the Switch gets so much right in comparison to the other consoles in terms of the hardware, is that it allows people to have that flexibility. Because if mine was docked, I would never have played it as much as I have. I found that actually the handheld element allows me to be a bit more flexible on the space I play it. So I don't have it docked into the living room at the moment, where I would have historically had my console and stuff like that, mainly because I've got a little one running around that I'll probably break it within 10 seconds. So I don't want that happening. So it's docked into this room where I am now and onto one of my monitors, which is nice. And so I could play it docked. However, this is also the room I spend a lot of my time working in for outside of gaming. And so like it's nice to not just sit in this room all the time. And so like for me, what I tend to find is that actually I'm now pulling it out and I'm just laying on the sofa and just playing it for a couple of hours, and then I'll just dock it back in and I'll carry on and do my next thing. And so for me, that's primarily how I played it. I've done it a bit on the where I've taken the sticks out and put it into the controller and played it on the monitor. And actually, it's really nice. It's just that I think for my mental state, I end up just taking it out. And I know that I'm probably getting a slightly smaller, less experience, but I can do everything that I want to do.
Yeah, it still runs the same. So yeah, it's not a major downgrade. It's handy just to be able to go into a different room. What have you made of like some of the tweaks they've made? Because again, it's an evolution, not a revolution. But I mean, they fixed things like the kickstand. I remember that, especially at launch from the original, that was awful. And I think on the OLED they made it a bit better, but now it's like a full kind of kickstand there. Battery life is obviously important if you're playing it in handheld. So just generally around some of the things they may have changed, improved, or have gone backwards. What are you looking to call out?
So talking about the positives first of all, like you're right, the kickstand's a lot nicer. It's a lot sturdier, which is great. I feel like and this is another thing, when it's portable, you can kickstand it up, and you can then take the controllers off and play it on the kickstand, which is nice. And I've done that once or twice before, especially when playing the demo game, and I'm sure we'll come onto that in a bit. But it's just playing with a few different ways. So I think like the kickstand's really good. I really, really like the not the ergonomics, but the way it just clicks into place on the two sides. It feels a lot more intuitive. It feels sturdy. It just feels like it has a bit more oomph to it, and I really like that. And it's a slightly bigger screen. And so well, I was playing on I think before when I was last playing on the Switch, I was playing on Switch Lite anyway. So for me, that is a huge drastic improvement. I wasn't playing on an OLED. So for me, that screen's popping a lot more, and that's really. And generally, like the processing of games, and we'll come on to some of the games later, but like just generally as as a highlight is in Pokemon, there were areas I would go to which were just a laggy mess, and now it just runs so much smoother. Like it's like nothing ever happened, and that's so nice. I would say the only thing that for me that I've disliked about it is and also actually one of the other things was having the little USB-C on the top rather than on the bottom. That is really nice. That was something that they didn't have to do, but they've done. One of the things that I said I didn't like is I think, and I don't know whether it's a downgrade or if it's just the same. For me, it just feels like the battery life when you take it out. I have found generally when I'm playing games, I'm getting to 2.5 hours and the battery's incredibly low at that point. Like so much so that I'm like, if I keep playing it, I don't want it just to die on me. And so I'm like, right, let's find the next logical save point and put it in. And there's definitely been a few times that has stopped me playing a game for longer than it needs. And I think that's probably the one area I would hope Nintendo come out and improve with when they come to do the enhanced versions, because I know you can buy battery packs and stuff like that, but that sort of just feels like you don't want suddenly this massive thing in your hand. So I'm hoping that gets better, but it definitely feels like, and I don't think it needs to be drastically better. They say like at the moment I think it's between 2 and 6 hours depending on the type of game you play. I just hope it could be more along the lines of 4 to, let's say, 10 hours undocked. I think that like generally 4 hours is quite an intense gaming session, but I think people can do it, and if we can get to that, then I'd be very happy. But it's not there at the moment, and that for me has definitely sucked me out of a few games, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah, I think on the original I bought a power bank at some point because I was going to the Caribbean, I assume, and it was like an 8-hour flight, and I knew it would only last 4 hours tops. And then I charged that up before I went, and that lasted the whole thing. That's like a nice little half. It was quite expensive though, from what I remember. It was a Nintendo official one. That's really, like you said, other than buying like a charging pack, which can add like a big horrible ergonomic feel to it. That's always an option to look at power banks, but yeah, when you're at home, you can always try and find a plug socket and plug the cable in. I assume it'll charge off most USBs if you've got the plugged into the mains to keep it running, but then you're tethered, which can be awkward sometimes. But that's always the trouble with these handheld things. The more intense the games get, the shorter the battery life is. So I know the Steam Deck people praise because you can actually dump the performance of the game a little bit to get more battery life, whereas I think the Switch is just natively, it will just run the game as it's coded. So maybe that's something they can do, is like knock the resolution down or knock the frame rate down a little bit, keep it smooth, but give it an extra hour or two. That's something that maybe they could improve.
I think that's a good point. I generally think most people that are playing on handheld device are not looking for ultra 4K, 120 FPS and that type of stuff. Like you sort of like, if you want that, you're sat in front of a monitor that can do that and really going for it. Whereas if you're on a handheld, generally most people are probably happy between 30, 60 FPS and just a reasonable looking device that doesn't lag.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. Well, I've been playing mine mostly docked, and the docked experience is much better. Like the original Switch, my main issue was that it was just 90% of games that you put on the dock just look like trash on the telly that I use, like the OLED. Granted, it's old, but it's a nice TV, but it was horrible. Like Pokemon Legends Arceus, that blown up on a 48-inch whatever this is, was just horrible to look at. Whereas the games that I've played, granted it's only really 2 in anger, like Mario Kart and Donkey Kong, they look nice on the 4K OLED TV. It scales nicely. There's some upscaling in there that I know that's going on. And whilst it's not, it's not going to be a GTA 6 style looking game, any of them, it's now up to a standard where it's not horrible to look at. So I can see myself, I'm never going to buy a third party game on it because I've just got a PS5 or an Xbox. I want to do that, or even a PC. But for anything that's kind of Switch only, and even games that maybe make more sense on the Switch, like a 2D platformer, it now won't look so horrible. So I'm quite pleased with that, because that was my main if I was going to ask for something out of the Switch 2, it was that the docked experience was better. Now, it could always be better, but it now looks up to a standard where I'm not going to feel sick every time I turn it on and try and run through the plateau with my Pokemon on Arceus. It's just a shame they haven't upgraded Arceus Legends or Legends Arceus, done like a Switch 2 version, which I know they've done for Violet and Scarlet, because I put it on the other day and that still looks rotten. There's only so much that can be done. But for the stuff that's coming on Switch 2 now, I have some faith. And as long as they keep it to like this sort of standard, like I said, it hasn't got to be crystal 4K. I'll be happy. I hope they don't get greedy with it and start to push the hardware too much so that it starts to look and run a bit toilet. That can happen towards the back end of a generation, but Nintendo know the hardware better than me, so hopefully they'll just keep in line with that. So ticking the box really from me. Did you buy any other accessories of it? I mean, I bought the Pro controller, which is expensive, very expensive for what it is, but it is nice. So I gave up my old Pro controller, which would have worked. And I haven't come up with any reason to use these new back buttons they've got. I don't know what they're doing there. I hit them by accident all the time, so I'm glad they're not doing anything in the game, but someday they're going to be used. But it's a really nice, sleek controller. Battery life's pretty good, so I'm pleased with that. But did you go ahead and buy any accessories with it, camera or otherwise?
I did. Interesting enough, I was going to buy the controller, and I sort of held off because I wanted to see how much I was actually using it docked, because I think it's sort of I think that is better docked, and because I've been very much handheld, I haven't purchased it yet, but it is definitely one of those ones that as and when and if I do start to dock it more, it just seems like an obvious buy to improve the game experience, especially just to chill out and lean back and not worry about that crappy little one that they give, which is fine, but it's you can probably get a lot more out of it. I only purchased the camera, and I know they offered 2 cameras, I think, at the get-go. And the good nice thing about the camera, to be fair, is that you can plug anything into it and it will still work. Which is, they didn't have to do that, and they could have locked it down and said, "Nah, devices only."
Pretty sure the PS5 you have to use the proprietary cameras to operate it. So you're right. You can plug any webcam into this and it will work.
And so like there's definitely other things like that they've given up in terms of like they could have lowered the price of the console but made you have to buy all their cameras and accessories. I ended up, I think it's more of a whim than anything, because they had the 2 cameras. I had one which was like a higher frame rate and it's just like this black camera, which was fine, and then they had one as the thing from Mario, I forget what it's called, begins with P. It's like a little, I'll show you. I've got it here. This. And so I got this camera, which Piranha, that's it. And so the camera's in there. It's quite nice because it opens and closes.
I didn't realise it opened and closed. That's cool.
So you can like close it off, and you don't have to have it plugged
Privacy
in.
Screen.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like hooks up quite nicely, and it's quite well done. It looks good. Never used it. It was meant to be, obviously. Mario Kart was the one that I think it came out with, so you could play it with friends. I don't think at all any of us have ever got on and done a massive race and then put the little screen where you're in the bottom corner. So whether I'll ever use it, I don't know. I tend to find generally with Switch, I'm quite happy to be a little bit more solo-y than playing with friends. If I want to play, I maybe want to play online a bit, but actually I don't want to talk to the people that I'm playing online with. One of those type of experiences. But yeah, with this, I think I got sucked in because it's relatively cheap in the grand scheme of things, and it just looked quite cool. And I thought, if I'm going to have a camera, maybe I need a camera for Mario Kart. Yeah. Like this one I do, and it's quite cool, and it'll look nice in my room.
It wasn't expensive either, was it? It was like...
No. 20 quid or something?
20 or 30 quid, yeah.
Something like that. And it was cheaper than the plain black one that had a higher frame rate, and so I was like, well, for me it's more of a gimmick buy rather than a buy that something I need it to work, and I need it to work well. So for me, I was quite happy to do that. And I know on the black one there's been companies that have built like covers or hoods that you can put over it, so it makes them look nicer. But yeah, so that's the only thing I brought. Never used it. Not sure I ever will. It sits there on my monitor and it looks quite nice.
If nothing else, a nice decoration.
Exactly, and that's generally what a lot of the stuff in my room is. Does nothing, it just looks nice.
Interesting. Yeah, I didn't. I was going to get it, and I was like, "Am I actually going to use this thing?" And I was thinking I could just plug my webcam in here, and then when it became clear that no one was going on or coordinating anything, I was like, well, yeah, I'll probably never get one now unless there's like some major multiplayer game that comes out on Switch only that enhances the experience. But even then, I'll just plug this thing in here and use it. But yeah, I was interested because there was a lot of accessories, and the Joy-Con replacements, or if you want to buy a second pair, is expensive as well. They're like up to 90 odd quid, and I was like, oh god. So that's where things start to break. It might be an expensive endeavour to replace. That's definitely something I've got my eye on. With this,
and the steering wheel as well came out, didn't it?
Yeah, which is garbage. I had that on.
Yeah.
I think I had it on there's a Wii version of that, which made more sense because it was motion controls. But I'm sure for like Christmas, one of the nieces or nephews got the steering wheel for the Switch, and it was like, this is the worst play to play this. Like a novelty trash that they've done with it. But there you go. Any other business on the Switch hardware and accessories and bits and pieces like that?
I don't think so. I think it all, to be fair, generally it's been a very positive experience. There's, like anything, there's things that it can improve on, but and there's probably loads of things that we didn't go into. The rolling of the controllers now. There's very few games that can use it. And we'll probably go into the games in a minute, but I played the demo, and there was a bit of the demo where you could roll it and stuff like that, and it's very
the mouse and whatnot.
That and the mouse format. It feels very intuitive, like in terms of how you have it in your hand, and the way it senses. My worry was like, it's going to be a bit crappy, a bit like like
jittery.
Not picking up, but actually it was like using a really good mouse within reason. So like, yeah, I think I'm overall really happy with the hardware that's come out. For me, just need to improve a bit on the battery.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned it briefly earlier, but the magnetic clipping for the Joy-Cons is so much better. Like it's actually unbelievably better than having to slide it and miss the slot, and like these things just snap in, and they're solid as well. I was worried they'd be a bit flimsy. I mean, you can make them if you really force it, but you shouldn't be twisting your fucking handheld like that. But that magnetic kind of snapping now is so much better. It's such a smarter way of doing it. Last question. It's kind of slightly related because it's in the handheld space, but given that you're definitely spending a lot of time in handheld because of the Switch, is there ever an interest or a sniff at a Steam Deck or an ROG Ally or whatever they're called, like other handheld devices that have access to like Steam libraries or PC games, where obviously bits that you can't get on your Switch necessarily you might have access to other bits on there? Does this ever tempt you into looking into that market a bit further on the handheld side?
I have thought about it, but not really heavily. So I'd say not at the moment. But because for me, people that know me know I used to play and have been out of it for a little bit a while. But Guild Wars 2, that you're able to play that on the Steam Deck now.
All the controllers maps nicely, or
well, this is the thing is that in my mind I'm like, how is this going to have like a billion buttons to press? But apparently it's fine.
Okay.
I think it's one of those ones that I've never had in my hand, so I've never trust people's opinions on it.
They said that about Diablo 3 back in the day. I was like, that won't work on console. And actually, they managed to get the control mapping down pretty well, so it is possible.
Yeah, so I don't know how that is going, but for me, like, generally, a lot of the other games that I think I would want to play away from the Switch are games that I'd probably want to come away and either be sat down at a computer and in my own space and have some level of surround sound, let's say like a GTA 6 or Red Dead or whatever and stuff like that. I wouldn't really want to play that on a handheld. I could, but I feel like I'd lose a part of that experience. Or games that I want to play as a multiplayer, as a group of friends where we're chatting and stuff like that. And once again, I feel like for that I'm quite happy to come and sit at a computer and dedicate some time to that. Yeah, and shut the door and say, right, no disturbing. I've I'm disappearing for a couple of hours and have a glass of wine.
More like 4 hours. It's the way these sessions go. They just go on, and you're looking at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're like, whoops.
Yeah, exactly. So for me, like those type of games, I already carved out time for myself to do anyway. I think what the Switch is allowing me to do more is play more games within maybe dead space time where I felt guilty that I would be looking myself away too much, and I could just go and sit in the living room with the family, and everyone's doing their own thing, but I don't feel that I'm just sort of taking myself out of it.
No, that's fair enough. Should we get into some of the games then? What's been
Let's
played
do
on
it.
this device? Let's start with Mario Kart World because it was the launch title. I played a fair bit of it. I think I clocked up close to 20 hours, although the play activity on the Switch drives me up the wall because it only seems to update every 5 hours, so it's not an exact thing. But I basically played it until I could unlock the mirror mode, which was hidden away, and there was some mystery about what you needed to do that and the requirements. So it took a little bit longer than it probably would have done if I just waited a week and looked up what was needed. So I put a bit of time into it. I was quite happy after I hit the credits early, was just to walk away then, because to be honest, Mario Kart's just not ever, other than the Super Mario or Mario Kart the original on the SNES, I've never really been that enamoured by it throughout, whether it was 8 Deluxe or 64. I've just been like, okay, it's fun for a little while, but I can't deal with this for longer than a few hours. But what about you? I know you haven't played loads of it, but you did get to the credits at least, which you can knock out in about 5 hours if needs be. But thoughts on did you play much of 8 Deluxe or not on the Switch?
8 Deluxe was exactly the same as what Mario Kart World was to me. I sort of unlocked the maps that I needed to unlock in the modes. Got to, I don't know, I can't remember those credits back then, but like got to a point where I'd done somewhere between sort of 5 and 10 hours or hours, and I was like, that's enough for me. And like, it was one of those interesting ones that you lot all talk about the mirror mode at the time, and it was a bit like, oh, we need to do this, we need to do that, who needs to do what, and I was like, do I want to spend another 10 hours trying to figure this out, or do I care that much? Like, once I unlock mirror mode, will I be playing it obsessively? And the answer was no. So I was like, I don't need to unlock it. I may as well just wait until there's a guide that's come out and I want to go back to it, if I want to go back to it, and just follow that and do that, because everything will be up there at that point. So yeah, I sort of got to the credits, unlocked everything. I'm not even the type of person that has to play it on whatever the top CC is. I can't remember. But I was quite happy to have it on like the middle of the range CC, whatever it's 50, and just do it at that point, win the races and get to the credits and sort of unlock every part of the map, and a bunch of, like, to be fair, like for me in Mario Kart, I think if you're playing it a lot and you really like that type of game, unlocking cosmetics, unlocking all these different costumes and different types of carts and all these different modes is worth doing, because you're going to consistently keep playing it because you like that game loop. I think for me it's sort of just big. I've in my mind, I'm a bit like when I watch a film. Once I've watched a film once, I very rarely go back to it and watch again. Whereas Mario Kart, so I've done this race once, maybe twice. I really don't want to keep going back to this again and again and again just to streamline this, or just to get first place in this and stuff like that, because and I was happy enough to see, and I think that, to be fair, that's credit to the people that do Mario Kart, that they throw the credits out that early and allow people to walk away from it, because I wouldn't be surprised if you look at a lot of the stats from Mario Kart globally, everyone that's played it would probably have been to the point of getting to those credit points and then probably putting it down.
No, it's I'm very much the same with it. It's never going to stick around constantly. It's going to have a period of time. And the fact that it was really the only top game that was out at launch, I kind of felt like almost that I had to get it, and because the bundle felt like it was better value, even though that's all artificially done on purpose by Nintendo to say, oh, the bundle, you save 30 quid, and it's like, but it's 30 quid that I probably wouldn't have spent if there was another option of like, if Donkey Kong was out, for example, I wouldn't have bothered. But they very cleverly, strategically kind of tiered those out over, gave them a gap so that I ended up buying both at some point. So it worked, that ridiculous plan. Did you mess around with the knockout mode, like that new kind of battle royale one where you have to finish in the top 20 in the first checkpoint, and then the 15, then it sort of whittles people down until the last bit where you've got to finish first out of 4? Did you give that a go at all?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Well, I did, but not online.
I didn't online either, to be fair. I didn't play
and I
think
I might be wrong, but I'm sure you had to complete that to get to the credits.
Yeah.
So I think you had to win all those races and stuff like that. But I think it was only you had to do it at 50cc
Yeah.
or whatever it was. So it was. Yeah, I did play it. I think it was a really interesting one. I actually think that's probably the more fun mode to be
I
playing
agree.
online. It probably feels a bit like, if you put it into context, is it, what's the game it's not Human Falls Flat, no, the one where you're like those jelly things and you're doing we're in a team. It was like me, you, I think, and Dave played it, and then we're like a team of three,
Oh,
and then
yes, I
we
know what
got
you
knocked
mean.
out and
Fall
stuff like that.
Guys.
Fall Guys, that's the word I'm looking
Yeah,
for.
yes.
And it feels a bit like that type of
Yeah.
concept, that there's an end sight and you want to get to the end and you want to win it, and it feels great when you don't do it. But if you keep getting knocked out, and actually I feel like that maybe game would probably do itself quite well. The problem is it's so individual, you have to be individually motivated, whereas if you're doing it as a group of free cars and you have to keep at a certain position within the race with like free cars, that I think would probably draw more sort of that team element to it and get a different type of people. Like I've said, that us playing Fall Guys, I would never play Fall Guys on my own, but
Yeah.
as a group it was a lot more fun for a period of time, and so maybe they could look at something like that. But yeah, I did play it, but only against, like the computer and stuff like
Yeah.
that, and at a low CC level, so I didn't really experience too much of I got knocked out early on.
No. They made some change to the Grand Prix in that there's like these intermission races where you're not on a circuit for 3 laps, you drive from A to B. And that got people's backs up because they like the circuit. It felt like the knockout mode, that was a better style of track for that, because you're on a rally essentially, or like a trial, which would have been good. But I wasn't overly fussed. I felt like I prefer the circuits, absolutely, because you kind of learn the circuit and you're like, okay, 3rd lap, I can now sort of move away up the rankings because I understand where things are. Whereas on the on the intermission ones, you're just going from A to B, so you don't really do any repetitive stuff. Given that you're not a major fan of Mario Kart World, I assume this didn't really get your back up too much. I wasn't overly bothered, but I know a lot of people were a bit annoyed that the old school mode has been meddled with in some way, unnecessarily probably.
Yeah, no, it wasn't something like that bothered me too much. But as I said, like, yeah, I think we said it at the start. Maybe we're not the type of audience that are going to be playing Mario Kart day in day out. But the guys and girls that are, it's frustrating when you're doing something for 15 years in a certain way on other games and things get changed up, and then it's like, well, we've been playing this way and this is why we've stuck around.
Yeah. No, I thought the intermission levels or tracks shouldn't have been restricted tracks. Like you have to go a certain route. I think it should have been, you start at A, here's B, you've got an open world now that they've created, you find the quickest way yourself there. I think that would have been a really cool way to use the open world that they fucking built and then have something a bit different. But they didn't go for that. Last thing, moving on to that, is the open world and the free roam mode. Did you go in there to mess around at all? Because I felt like this was just a massive waste of an opportunity to make something really cool, and it's just really boring. Like, it really did just bore me to tears, and I was like, this is not... There's so many... We've already done it with, like... Forza Horizon has shown the way to do it with, like, the activities that you can do in there. I'm not saying you've got to implement them all, but just, hitting icons, then doing like mini challenges, and nothing shows up on your map where it is, so you just got to fight. I don't know, it felt empty and like a half-baked idea, which actually has quite a lot of potential to mess around in.
Yeah, I think overall I spent a few hours in the open world, mainly because I kept jumping into thinking, am I missing something? You're right, this should feel more fun than it is. And I'd spend like 20 minutes in it at a time, maybe a bit longer. And I'd be like, okay, well, there's another P there, I'll do that P. Or, okay, I wonder what if I can drive, can I drive across this part of the ocean and whatever it was. And like there was a few nice Easter eggs around where you can go into boats and drive the boats, or I think there's a UFO at one point I saw. I didn't do that, but like it's but you're right, it sort of just feels like it's just missing that thing to be like, I want to stay here. Like, it doesn't help me if like, all right, there's a load of collectibles in this area and you'll get this at the end of it, go around, do all of these collectibles. It's sort of like just go and do what you want, and it just becomes boring, and like it's not like there's other players in there to interact with, like on like a GTA world or something where you can then interact, maybe come across them and go say like let's have a race or whatever, and that, and challenge people, and it becomes sort of a living breathing. It just sort of like, hey, if you just want to just drive around everything, we've built it already, here you go, you may as well do it, and there's a couple of little things to go through, and so like I was like, oh cool. So yeah, I didn't spend an awful lot of time in there in the end, but enough to get bored.
No, yeah, I agree. One thing I will say that I think's, and it's something I'll never get to grips with, and this is just the general game, I think the way the game plays is much more, got a lot more physics at play, and they feel a bit weightier with the slides and whatnot, but there's a very high, I can already see there's a very high ceiling of what you can do in the races, like the shortcuts you can take with the wall riding and the jumping. Like I've seen some insane online clips where people are like really using their imagination. The game's got a nice framework for those players, those high skill players, to do some crazy stuff. I think that's, for those that are into Mario Kart, I think that's going to keep them coming back for a long, long time, because I really have seen some crazy combinations. I tried to pull one off and it was just nowhere close to getting it. So not something I'll ever partake in, but I do have an appreciation that there's a higher skill ceiling than what other games have got for like the masters that are going to sit there and dump 100 hours in. I think they're going to be very happy with that.
Yeah.
Formalities. So we've got the Dimp Digital Gaming Gallery. If the game itself earns itself a bronze, silver, gold or platinum, you can interpret what that means. Or if you think it's not worthy of going in the gallery for whatever reason, it can go into the self-storage out in the car park. It was big yellow self-storage, but they got a bit high and mighty and it became too expensive for us. So we've just gone for a non-branded storage container and it can sit out there. There are games that sit out there, so it's not necessarily a rare thing, but if you're looking at Mario Kart World, what would you do with it?
I think it's probably a silver. Like it's very much a fun game to play for a short period of time, but don't expect the world. But then again, if you're that type of player that gets sucked into these type of games in the past, you will be sucked into that, and you could probably see it in their eyes being a platinum. But like I definitely just I was in my mind, I was focusing between whether it was a bronze or a silver. I think it probably just sneaks into the silver from the bronze section, mainly because it is a nice even before. They've got some new structured races, and the open world, even though it's boring, and that's the thing, is that the new stuff they got, some of it doesn't quite hit the mark, and that's probably what stops it from going further. As I said, if they'd fleshed out the open world and made that a bit better, or had some sort of gameplay loop for, I guess, more the casual player to spend more time in it, then that probably would elevate it. I just don't think it has. And if I look at most people's game time, because you can look at all your friends on what they're playing and how long they played it on the Switch, we can see even amongst this group no one's put an enormous amount of hours in.
It's all fell off, isn't it? Absolutely. I'm going to give it a bronze. I just think that it's good, but it's not my style of game, so it's sort of capped anyway, probably at a silver. Like that's the highest it would probably have to get. And I think the free roam's just a bit of a miss of a, it's not an open goal, but there's promise in that just hasn't been executed upon. Who knows? Maybe, as you say, it's more of a service game. Will there be DLC? Will they add to it? Potentially. But as it stands right now, 3 months from launch, it sits in the bronze for me. And that's where Mario Kart World goes. I think it generally feels like it's got a bit of a softer reception than 8 Deluxe. Even if you look at like the Open Critic score, it's down maybe 5 points or so. But it wasn't like the 90-plus scoring game that I think people were expecting. So I think there's definitely a bit of like, there's a missed opportunity in there somewhere. It seems like a fair enough point. But that's MK World. Going to do Donkey Kong Bananza next. Now, I know you've only played a little bit of this, but I'll be interested to hear what your early thoughts are, because this was the game I was basically waiting to play on the Switch 2. And I've got through it. I've done the post-game as well. I haven't done the whole 100% Banana Collection. I ain't doing that. Sorry. The game booted me back to the menu once I'd done the post game. So I was like, that's the signal for me that they're happy for me to walk away from it. So I went ahead and did that. But I'll share my thoughts in a bit. But I know you've had a little dabble in this. What are your thoughts on this? Are you a Donkey Kong fan at all, or is this a new venture for you?
This isn't well. I think like, have we played Donkey Kong in the past on the arcade machine? Probably yes. Did I play? I forget what Donkey Kong came out on the Switch earlier in the year. It was called Country or something like that. No. So I'm not the biggest Donkey Kong person, but what I did like with Donkey Kong Bonanza for when it was coming out was I like the idea that you could effectively smash your way through anything and you can create your own path and all that, and it was a new interesting take. And as like you said, this was definitely the game I come out on the Switch when they announced everything. I have only played a couple of hours. I've probably done the tutorial island bit, and now I've just been shoved into level minus SP 100 or whatever it is. Dabbling around that. I'm right at the start. Actually, interesting enough, I was talking to the same imaginary friend about this game as well, and we sort of had. He was at a similar point. We had the same sort of opinion at the start. I'm yet to feel the thing that's going to grab me and pull me into the game. Like, and maybe I'm assuming that might come a little bit later on. I also think that might also be because of my mindset in the game. And the use case I'll give for this was when I started off, I was like, all right, I want to smash everything.
Yeah.
I get to every point because apparently there's loads of like secrets around or whatever and stuff like that. Hidden bananas. And I really want to get like, I don't want to just accidentally go past things. I'm like a type of person that's in a game where I'm in a city. I'll be like, oh, there's an alleyway. Go around, look around the back of that building in case there's a hidden item or something like that. And so like I started off like that, and then in that tutorial island bit that or level, there's a bit where there's like a whole cave of gold that you have to go through, and I started trying to get it all, and I was just like, this is just not fun. Like, why am I like trying to punch all this gold to get all this gold? And I don't even know what this gold's useful for at this point. So I'm like, well, what am I trying to do with all of this? And I got to a point where I'm like, is this the way the game's trying to tell me, like, don't worry about everything, like, even if it's on show, like, just, you're gonna have to walk away from it because you could stay and do this, but then you're gonna really not enjoy the game of trying to get through just because you'll be trying to punch every little rock, every little thing, and so
you won't get very far fast.
Exactly, and I think maybe that's what's also slowed me down within the game is that I've been too much. I definitely think in the last sort of like 30 minutes or so of the game that I've been playing, I've been trying to be a bit more liberal with it, trying to go towards bits that it feels like the game's pointing me towards, like there's a monkey in front of a load of fallen rubble, like, okay, that is clearly saying that you go in here, you'll get something, instead of just being like, oh, I need to just bash through this wall because maybe, and there is something in there, probably not worth the time or effort. So so that's sort of my initial thoughts. I'm determined to it's a game I'm determined to finish. I think it's probably about a 20 to 30 hour game. I don't know.
Depends how far you want to go into it. I mean, I'll get into how the game kind of progresses a bit later, but you can make it quite quick if you want to.
Yeah, okay. Well, see, and that's what I might end up doing in the end. I might, when I sort of take myself out of that thing of like, you can't really get everything, I tend to go to the point of like, don't worry about everything and do very little and just keep progressing. And so I think that's I might end up doing. So I'd definitely be interested to hear your opinion on it, because I don't know whether you had a similar view at the first few hours or so and you didn't get pulled in, and then actually as you got into the level building stuff, it sort of started to open up more, because I've definitely seen things like, I don't know what the word for it is, but like not a utility tree, but like the ability to put points towards certain things that will make your life easier, like to be able to get an extra heart or to be able to punch things quicker or gather. Whether that will make the journey that slightly more fun as I go through it. Yeah,
I mean, the tech itself is impressive that you can flatten entire levels. It does have guardrails in there. There's like a foundation, much like Minecraft. You get to bedrock or whatever it's called, and you can't go any further, can you? So there are certain bits, and they're not always just the foundation. There might even be walls that are hidden in a mountain or something where you can't just smash through it. But it's impressive nonetheless, just to kind of do that. And I had a very similar experience in that I started off trying to flatten everything, and it was taking forever. And I was like, this isn't as fun as I thought it would be. I'm not always finding stuff. I might get a little tiny fucking sliver of gold, which is useful, but I want a banana or whatever. I want to find like a challenge room or something like that. And So that was quickly kind of, I got that out of my system within a couple of levels. And I was like, let's just focus on what's here. Maybe do a bit of digging here and there, like you said, where it might make sense. Or if I want to just, instead of going over something, I can just go through it. So the tech of it I really like. And that's kind of like one of its USPs is that you can smash a lot of the levels to pieces and you know, reconstruct them. It is like Minecraft where there's no physics. So if you just, you know, take out a tree's trunk, it will just float in air. So it's not like going to come crashing down like Breath of the Wild or something like that. It's not got a physics engine underneath it, but that's probably for the best. And then I guess the other part of it that's of interest is that you have these Bananza powers where you can transform DK into something else. So one of them is that you can punch much harder things and shatter them in one hit, or hit enemies and knock them out in one hit or whatever. So that's something that you activate. It lasts for X amount of time, and then it's on a, you know, you have to collect gold to redo it again and fill it back up. And it's easy to do. You can kind of string those together quite happily. I think there's 4 or 5 of them overall, and I won't spoil. I only do one of them because it's in the trailer. But another one, for example, is that you can start to glide, and that will help you access other areas and whatnot. They are good. They're fucking ugly as sin though. Like what DK turns into when he like activates them, it's horrifying. Like it should be in a horror movie, some of these things. But generally the powers themselves are necessary for certain challenge rooms, for example. Like the harder stuff for sure, you're going to need to get to grips with them. And usually there's like a story or campaign blocker where you need to unlock the skill to get to the next stage. There's an obstacle or a gap or something that you'll need to use that specific skill for. So it kind of eases you into it quite nicely. And they're interesting. It's just that I feel like we've had, I don't know, Cappy for Odyssey was much better. Like you could just transform into anything on the fly by throwing your hat at it. I suppose one of the things that DK had against it was that I really liked Odyssey, and I was sort of looking at this to be the next version of that. It's in my mind, it's not. It's impressive in some ways, and it's not so impressive in other ways. But those powers and the tech around kind of destroying things is interesting. In terms of how you move forward in the game, you can actually just move forward by following the kind of the waypoints they put on the map. You don't have to collect any bananas if you don't want to. So Odyssey, you had to collect a number of moons per level before it let you move on. This game, you can just go straight through and just follow beat by beat, you know, the campaign elements. What the bananas do and why they're useful is they allow you to spend those ability points and, you know, make your punches harder, increase your health, etc., etc. And some of those are really useful, like having more hearts is absolutely a lifesaver on some of the harder stuff. And the good thing is you can just respec them at any time without any penalty. So actually, if you ever decide to take on some of the tougher stuff, you might think, I want to increase my Bonanza power of this specific enemy because I will use it more. So you can respec it, pull it all into that one, and then go and take on the enemy. I did that a couple of times, mostly in the post game, if I'm honest, where it started to ramp up a bit. But for a general player, if you think, I've fucking wasted that, I'm not even using this fucking skill anymore, you can just take it out and respec it again with no issue with that. But I like that you've got the option now as the player to sort of press on when you want and not have to dilly around finding stuff. You want to get on to the next world, you just follow the requests that you need to do, and you'll be there. You haven't got to go no further. You've got to collect 30 bananas on this level or whatever. You can buy like clothes to put on DK, and it have like a buff or like an enhancement, so it might make him take less damage of a certain elemental type. It might make him move faster in water. It might increase the duration of a Bonanza kind of skill. And you've got the companion along with you. People have seen the trailers, like Pauline, she's there as well. She doesn't really offer much in terms of gameplay. You can play it co-op and control like some of her. She can shout, I think, so someone else can control that if that's of interest. I think Galaxy had a similar version of that, and maybe even Odyssey. But yeah, it's good. There's a lot of secrets and a lot of optional stuff, but it really is optional. It's not one of these games where it's asking you to do what you don't want to do. You can kind of play it however you want, which is which is quite refreshing because a lot of these collectathon games, like, no, you've got to get X amount of this before you can move on, then you've got to get X amount of that. This is like, no, if you want to just get on with it, you can. It'll be hard because I think you'll need some of the upgrades to buff out DK a bit so you don't get fucking mullered by some of the bosses. But overall, I liked it. I didn't love it. The camera sometimes when you're digging, I don't know if you found this, like in tunnels, got a bit hairy. Like it absolutely...
Where you could sometimes see stuff that you hadn't broken away yet.
Yeah.
I think they're trying to allow it. I think the whole point of that is that they want you to see, if you're going for a tunnel, to see like, oh, if I go here, there's treasure. If you and so that it sort of pushes you. But yeah, you're right. So sometimes the camera angles are a bit hairy on.
Like when you're climbing up stuff, I like the fact that you can just climb up everything as well in the game. Well, not everything. There are certain elements you can't, but vast majority you can just climb up and over. There's no stamina meter. So that's good for traversal. But sometimes if you're hanging off things, like the monkey bars or whatever they're called, the camera there sometimes would get all like snarled up, and I fell off a few times. I couldn't see what I was doing. I was like, hang on a minute, this is annoying me. And there are very slight performance issues, like frame rate. There are certain abilities that just, if you use them in anger, will tank the frame rate quite heavily. And in some of the bosses, there was a few hairy moments where it noticeably dropped, but it wasn't awful. Like I think I'm less bothered about that these days. If it's, as long as it's not constant, like if it's on occasions and not really affecting the gameplay, I'm a bit more forgiving. Whereas before, I've been like, that's it. It can't drop one frame, otherwise it's an absolute shitter. But generally, it looks nice though, even like blown up on the OLED. So that's always good to see. No underwater mechanics though, which seems, I don't know, I just expect that of every platformer. Like there'll be a way for you to swim underwater and there'll be like collectibles under there. It's like surface swimming only.
Yeah, I was just trying to think because like definitely in the tutorial there's a section where you can jump off the side and there's a bunch of water down there. I'm sure I was swimming between the rocks, but yeah, I never remember going underneath too much. Maybe a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. But no, overall there's a lot to do in it, and it's good, I'd say. I think for me it missed a few of the marks. Also, this came out when I was still playing Death Stranding 2, and I played it. I'd play it like once a week. I'd put it on to play it, but even after I'd finished Death Stranding 2, and I was like, right, now Donkey Kong's the main game. I don't think I ever put more than 2 hours into it at one go. Like, of an evening, I can do 3, 4, depending on what time I start, or in the morning, like at a weekend. But I just would like get to an hour or so, and I'd be like, oh, I'm kind of done now. I'll finish off what I'm doing, then come off it. So I don't know what that says about the game. I never really was properly hooked onto it to want to be like, I want to play this for like hours and hours. I'll be like, I'll always be looking at the clock, and I'll be like, oh, is that all the time that's gone? Only an hour. I'll be like, kind of done now. I'm just going to come off it. So clearly, it didn't completely hook me like it has with some people, but a good game nonetheless.
It scored well in the critics.
Yeah, I can see it. It just wasn't. It didn't resonate that much for me. Like, it's still pretty good. I played the Astrobot DLC afterwards, and it was startling how precise of a platform Astrobot is compared to Donkey Kong Bonanza. Because Donkey Kong Bonanza isn't really. I wouldn't even. I mean, it is a 3D platformer, but it's kind of not. There's a lot more punching and climbing, and precision jumping isn't really a requirement for this. It's more about getting from A to B and defeating enemies. So it's kind of interesting to have that flipped when I played the DLC of Astrobot. I was like, oh yes, this is what a real precision platformer feels like. Whereas Donkey Kong's like, no, you can it's more chaotic is how I'll describe it, which is fun. Yeah. Like, it's much more of a playground, much more of a sandbox to play in. So it's not an out and out 3D platformer, but I think that's all I've got to say on it, unless you've got any other questions that you wanted specifically to ask about Bonanza. I recommend people play it, and see it through. But there's a couple of games this year that have scored highly that I'm like, I like them, but not that much.
Yeah, and I definitely think Donkey Kong is one of those games that I think, unless it really didn't deliver, was always going to score well because everyone was talking about it. And I don't think anyone wanted to be seen as the person that was just slating it or scoring it lower than it should be. So, it's I it's one of those ones I've got to invest a bit more time into it, as I said, over the probably next few weeks, and then I'll probably be able to have a more detailed opinion with it. I suspect why what you said, and what speaking to some other people is feels a bit like a slow starting game, and actually is really the point is about changing your mentality within the game. So
just play it. That's the good thing. It does give you freedom to play it how you want to play. Like, you haven't got to dig around if you don't want to. It can make the game easier because you might have more skill points to invest, so you can make you more powerful. The levels, I've got to say, the levels are. I think they're hit and miss. I'd say there's a strong string of them that are really good and fun, but then there's also a section like of a few in the row where I was a bit like, these aren't that interesting to roam around in. So they're a little bit hit and miss as well. But yeah, you'll be able to find your way through it. You just need to be disciplined with the smashing because it's beneficial, but not always. So, you can buy like maps with the gold that you earn to show you where a banana is if you want it, and it'll just like ping it on your map. Also, the fast travel's contextualized, so I didn't feel bad about whipping around the map. Like in the game, there's a mechanism for you to do that, and it shows you it. So I was like, okay, that's fun to whip around in. But yeah, good, but not. Perhaps probably fell a bit short of what I was expecting, especially after the reviews. But that happens sometimes when things are gassed up so much. I'll give it a silver. Middle road. That's not middle road really, but that's still good enough. It don't need any more. It don't need any more. Right, Pokemon Violet. This is the Pokemon Violet which was on Switch original, but it's now been upgraded for Switch 2, and you went back and replayed it. You're not really a game replayer, so this must have had something in it to keep you play it for all again, like completely from top to bottom.
Again. I think,
What's that? Because this obviously is like, I have read that this is like a game-changing upgrade. Like, it really shows off what the Switch 2 can do compared to the Switch 1 and makes the game just better in every way. But is that accurate?
Yeah, massively. Like, so I remember playing on I think this was actually when I had just the normal Switch before I even had went onto the Switch Lite. But like, there is areas within Pokemon Violet and Scarlet that is just pretty much unplayable because it lags so much, and so you can't enjoy it. And there's this people that have played the game will know that there's this horrendous lake area. Well, it's not horrendous, it's a great lake area, but when you're playing on the Switch one, it's just a laggy mess, and just like you go into it, you're like, right, I need to get out as quickly as possible. The Switch 2 just sorts all of that. There's like things like it's just visually less popping in terms of like Pokemon just suddenly popping up or and all that type of stuff. So it's game changing is in the way of graphically more pleasing to play. I found that when I played it on the Switch 1, I end up rushing just to get to the end and just tick a box, say I've done it, and walk away from it. When I played on Switch 2, I actually wanted to spend more time and enjoy the world a bit and going to hidden areas, maybe sometimes going off piece and stuff like that. And so, because it is an open world game, it was the first sort of Pokemon mainline series open world game.
What about Arceus? Legends Arceus?
That isn't mainline series. So that's like saying Pokemon Snap. But it was a good game. It's same like X and Y that's coming out. Oh, not X. ZA is not technically a mainline series game.
How the tune
but yeah, I could go and talk about Pokemon and where it's going into the future. That's probably a conversation, but it's a really interesting space. But yeah, I've sort of I was sucked into a lot of the online competitive Pokemon over the last sort of few months, and so that's all what drew me back into wanting to replay again. And it was a really nice experience. I got to the credits. I've done all the sort of what I call post game stuff. So within it, I haven't completed the Pokédex. To complete the Pokédex, it's not impossible, but like there's definitely things that obstacles that make it harder. So like there are certain things that you have to have. So like Scarlet and Violet, and so some Pokemon are only available in Scarlet and not available in Violet, and versa. So either you need to buy both games, or you need to then know someone
Oh,
does the other game and jump into their game and get it. So like, there's definitely things like that, and then obviously two legendaries that come in the 8 game. So each game only has one of those legendaries, and so that there's little things like that. And equally, the other thing is there's some Pokemon that you need to trade for them to evolve. So once again, you need to be able to play with someone else. And like, there is ways that you can go onto communities on boards and stuff like that and get people to do it with you and stuff like that. I'm just generally not the type of person that does that, and for me that's sort of a wall from trying to complete it. But yeah, so apart from that, I did all that. Now I'm at the point where I sort of took a stop to play obviously Donkey Kong, but there's the 2 DLCs that came out with it as well, and it's made me want to actually purchase those and play them, because I think that the story in those are only like 10 hours long each. You get like an extra 100 Pokemon in each, and I think it takes you to like around about 650 Pokemon total, considering there's like 1,100 Pokemon or something like that. So you obviously don't have a game, but it's
crazy.
It's a lot nicer just to play it. And actually, the other reason I wanted to play it was I wanted to dip my toes back into it before playing ZA, which comes out in October. I didn't play Arceus.
No.
I still want to potentially play it, but I feel like ZA is probably going to be where I go, and it's an interesting concept there. So I really liked it. We talk about like, games that we're spending like 5-10 hours in here. I spent 55 hours on Pokemon Scarlet and Violet on the Switch too. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. It takes so I'd say it's about a 30-hour game to complete. So the rest of it is just doing other stuff just in the background when I'm just like trying to catch certain types of Pokemon or doing some side quest stuff.
Was it difficult replaying a game that you'd already played and was quite familiar with? Was you a bit like sometimes like, I remember this bit? Like sometimes when I replay stuff, I always think, I've forgotten everything that's happened. And then you play it and you're like, oh no, I remember exactly what I need to do here. And you just sort of sometimes want to get past certain bits. Or was you able to just play it in a nice rate?
There was definitely parts we go like something would happen. You go, oh yeah, that was that part of the story. I remember that. I'd forgotten that part. I suppose like when you watch a film, you go, oh yeah, that was a good bit. I'd forgotten that part because you remember some of the other key moments.
Yeah.
But it was never in a way that was like that was a poor experience. And I think it's just because it was so poor on the Switch 1 to play that actually playing on Switch 2 was just more enjoyable. I maybe put it into a way of like, you watched a movie on a black and white TV and then you watch the same movie in color. It's going to feel more enjoyable, hit slightly different, even if you know what the punchline's going to be. And it sort of makes you slow down and pay more attention and stuff like that. And the other thing I think Pokemon has going for it, and one of the things I also did was I made sure I've started off with a different starter. And there's 1,000 in the game, 400 and vanilla base game, 400 Pokemon within that. And so when you're creating your team of 6 as you go through it is completely different. So therefore you're suddenly got different tactics against different trainers, because actually you're like, I need the grass type, and you might have had a different grass type Pokemon before, and all this type. So like it just then puts, and I think that's the replayability of Pokemon and why it's so popular, and people play the same games over and over again and create things like Nuzlocke and all these other offshoots of Pokemon, that actually, because there is so many Pokemon with so many different moves, it's so replayable for a long period of time. Once again don't think I'd probably go back and replay it again, but I wouldn't mind completing the Pokédex at some point, but maybe not anytime soon.
No, that'd be hard. That'd be very hard. Well, any other comments on Violet? I know you've spoke through this before, but I suppose the technical upgrades are nice there, so made it worthwhile going back. And I think paints a positive picture for the Switch too, if they can do that. And because mechanically they don't need to do much more. Like Pokemon's going to be what it's going to be. It's just that it's not going to be awful at times. So
yeah, and they didn't have to do that. Like no. Let's be. They didn't have to upgrade it. They could have just said it's just been ported over and it is what actually the upgrades are coming, and they gave it away for free as well. It's not like
Yeah.
Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which you had to pay £10 extra for the upgrade. I know that came with extra bits of story and mobile app application or something, because I've not done it. But but yeah, they didn't have to do that, and it was a nice thing to do. I suspect, as I said, because it's part of the main Pokemon games, and we know the next main Pokemon game isn't actually coming till next year. They probably thought it's a good way to keep people still invested in it without probably having to do too much of an effort.
Yeah. No, it's good. I wish they'd done Legends Arceus, but looks like they never will. So
They're very good at re-releasing games in the future, all done up. So maybe they think Legend of Arceus is one of those they can just re-release and get a cash grab for it.
I'll pay for it. I'd love to play that running not awfully. So I'll be well up for that.
Quick question: are you going to get Pokemon ZA?
Well,
because it's meant to be it's meant to be like, in terms of mechanically, like the way it's
Yeah.
played, it's meant to be the same. But this one is just based in a huge city, and
I don't like what I liked about Legends Arceus was that it was set like at the very beginning of Pokemon and like humans interacting. So actually, there's some cool like lore bits in there around, like even the Pokeballs they use are quite archaic compared to what you see in later games. But there was like you're going out to research and find out about them, how they interact with humans, can they hurt us? All this would be scared of them. It kind of dealt with. They had a nice hook there. I mean, I don't know if they fleshed it out as much as what I'd have liked, but it was at least intriguing. And it was set obviously because of the setting. Timeline wise, it was quite primitive. We're seeing this in like a big city. I don't know. I was like, this doesn't feel like Legends. I was expecting Legends to be like this thing they iterate on. It goes a little bit further in the future, and then we find out a bit more about what happened. But this seems to have just, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it's jumped like a millennium almost, and we're in this city that looks like Paris, and there's Pokemon on rooftops. So the honest answer is I don't know. At the moment, probably not. But maybe when it comes out, if I actually have a proper look at it, I'll be like, okay, maybe I should get involved with this. But I'm kind of on the fence at the moment.
Yeah, I think lore is it's nowhere near Arceus in terms of like going back and pulling up.
I don't understand why it's called Pokemon Legends. Maybe I've misinterpreted what they're doing. Now I don't understand what this whole offshoot is, in all honesty. I can't wrap my head around it.
My take was that it was just away from like the main structure of the generations that they have. And with Arceus, and obviously the lore stuff is very much around different type of fighting mechanics and stuff like that. Like that's away from the turn-based sort of model. And actually that's what they've dived into on ZA is this sort of real life battling, and not turn-based, that actually got to move and dodge and all these other things. And this one's and then you have to climb a ladder and be the best in the city or whatever it is. But
see, that's I don't know. We don't want that. I like researching and finding out about the Pokemon. Like what's
there might be
going
some
on
of that
the
in there.
world. Maybe there is, but the whole
Maybe
like
it
being
is.
the best battler, I'm like, we've done this a million times. This Arceus felt a bit different.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Maybe I can be brought around. To be honest, if they'd released an upgraded version of Arceus, chances are I would have got that or just played it, and then I might have been like, I'm just going to carry on with the Legends series only. But because I want to go back and I'd like to go back and replay that in a new version and like properly fill out the research documents and not do the whole Pokedex, but there was like amount of stars you could earn for doing I'd like to just get the maximum on that and then walk away from it. Because I did a lot of, if not, well, probably not all of the end game or post game stuff, because there's normally about 3 sections to that, but certainly once the credits roll, I did another main chunk of it, and then after that I was a bit like, I think the only thing I've got to do is fill out the research book, but I lost interest by that point. So if they re-released it in a nice state, I'd go back and start from scratch and then just do a full playthrough, but we'll see.
Maybe, who knows?
Who knows? Where are we putting this Pokemon Violet then in 2025? Last time you've done it was in 2023. It got a silver. So does the upgrades give it enough of an oomph to promote it, or is there still certain elements that bog it down slightly?
I'll give it a silver.
Yep.
Well, it's definitely an upgrade. But is it an upgrade past a silver? Like
Yeah.
in my mind, now I look back on it on the Switch, I was thinking maybe it's more of a bronze back then, and actually it's a silver now. So I don't think I can move it up. I still think it's a silver.
Yeah.
I just think maybe my score from before
A bit generous.
was probably a bit too generous back then, and I think yeah, I still think it's a good game to play and it's fun. And like as I said, I got 55 hours out. DLC.
Yeah.
You could argue it could get a bit of gold. I think I'm just thinking about it. Just unfortunately, there's the things that I think sometimes lots of people like about Pokemon, but also takes it back is it just is the same gameplay loop over and over and over again, and that can become a bit monotonous. So for me, like I'd stick it as a silver.
Yeah, fair enough. You can go there. Right, final main game that's been finished to talk about. How do you pronounce this? Neva?
Neva?
Okay. I've never even heard of this. I thought you'd already spoken about this, but it turns out it was the developer's other game, and this is either, I don't know if it's a sequel or just another, a new set of narrative things. But talk to me about Neva or Neva, however you want to frame it.
Neva. So yeah, you're right. So like I played the first game, which was a game by the developer. I forgot what but they developed the first game called Gris, and I really like that. It was as about a 3-4 hour game, and I like games that are like short, make me feel something, and then I can get out and go on and move on to something else. And then I just
Nomada Studio,
based in Barcelona, I think, or something.
Yeah, like that. Published by Devolver Digital, who do a lot of smaller indie. Like they're like an indie pub. Well, are they even indie if they got a publisher? We're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But Devolver Digital typically pick up smaller games and get them to market. There's tons of great stuff in their portfolio.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting. I'd have to have a look at their portfolio. But I don't know how I came across it. It sort of just popped up, and then I looked at it. I saw the art style, and I was like, that's very similar. And it must have just been on something. And then I was like, quickly made the link. Oh, these are that same developers. And I had a look, and they've only developed these two games, or mainline games. Whether they're now developing a third, and I think this was released actually like 2-3 years ago. Yeah. So it's not like a new game. It's just that I hadn't come across it, and so like I just decided to buy it on the Switch because it was compatible for the Switch 2, and just give it a go. And it's probably the best thing I've played on the Switch. Switch 2, let's say, because I
assume it has no Switch 2 upgrades. It's just
but I think it's also like most indie games. It's probably
fine.
Quite low maintenance to run, and the art style's done quite cheaply. It's to go into a bit detail about the game, and without giving it away, it's effectively a puzzle platform jumper with a little bit of combat in it, and you are some woman. I don't think she gets given a name, and you're effectively looking after building a relationship with a dog that you can control a little bit and ride and stuff like that. And you're
hang on, you should be riding dogs. Doesn't matter how big it is. That's cool.
Well, the dog grows, and the dog becomes like it's like a more sort of a mythical beast type thing in the end, like dog. So like the dog's the size of your room there, so you'd easily be back, or it's like the size of a horse or whatever. But the games, and it's much like Gris, it's very similar in terms of like the narrative is really allows you to build up your own context around it. You can sort of tell there's a story that builds emotion, and like you could look at it like if you're, I don't know, if you've got like a deep relationship with a dog, like you'd probably really like this. If you've got some level of, I don't know, cancer or something like that, you could probably relate to it. If you death within the family, you could probably relate to it. And it's the same with like Gris, and it's those type of sort of emotional games that really put yourself into that story, even though you're not there, or not a part of it. can feel it's sort of that sort of, it's like looking at a piece of art or something. You can put your own context behind it, and it's just beautiful. And the soundtrack is just really ambient and builds and falls at the right times. And they have two sort of modes within the game. One is sort of story based mode where you can't really die. You can die, but it just puts you back in the same position. We can have it on like the combat mode where it becomes that little bit harder.
Right.
I tend to, for these ones, just stick to the story because that's sort of what I'm playing it for. I'm not really playing it to be the greatest, like
No, it's not Dark
combat.
Souls.
Exactly. And so yeah, it's a 3-4 hour game that's just pulls you in, makes you feel something, and then lets you go, and it just sort of sticks with you. And I think that's what Gris did to me, which made me play Neva, and Neva's done to me again. And I'm really hoping the studio will release something else within the same sort of context. And I think because it's one of those games that's only a 3-4 hour game, it's worth just a play for anyone that's got a Switch 1 or a Switch 2, and just to enjoy it. It's nothing. We're not gonna sit here and say it's a AAA game, but I think sometimes we overlook the smaller games. Every now and someone pop through like the like Hollow Knight, the original, or, Super Meat Boy, or Braid or something like that. But generally, there's a lot of stuff that's going on in this sort of indie sort of development.
Tons
that come out, and that's just really nice and really soft, and it allows you to move on. I sort of look at it in a similar way to how I look at movies and TV series these days. I feel like a movie I can put on in 2 hours. I can watch a movie and I can feel closure. Sometimes when I watch a TV series, I've got to spend 20 seasons or whatever it is, each an hour episode, and
then it gets
so
cancelled
long.
and never finished anyway, and you're like, fucking hell.
Exactly. And so like with these bigger, especially AAA games that like the Death Strandings or the GTA 6 or whatever else is coming out, these games you invest in 100 odd hours in. It's nice to have these little nuggets aside while doing it, be able to vary it up. And I think Neva is that type of game. So for me, it's a beautiful game. It's fun. It's not massively hard, but it's more thought provoking and tugging on the heartstring.
Well, now that he said that, has he boxed himself into a corner with the gallery? Self-storage is waiting. It's waiting for a victim to put Neva in to really criticise them, but I assume it's going to go in there and be platinum, gold, silver, or bronze, but it could be one of the high-rated ones.
For me, it's a platinum. It's definitely a platinum. I could argue it to be maybe a gold, but I just think very few games in a short period of time make me feel a certain way, and that was a game that I was able to allow me to just feel a load of emotion and put it down, and I still think about it, like just that 4 hours. That's all it needed, and all in a positive way. Like some of the gameplay could be slightly better, but actually sometimes going at a slower pace adds to the ambience and all this other stuff. So I highly recommend. It's one of those games that, to be fair, I probably should just give it to you and you can give it a go. You'll enjoy it.
I'll find it somewhere. I'm sure I know it's on a lot of platforms, but do I need to play Gris first now? Obviously that Ronnie
no
Brain,
they're two separate games. They're two separate games.
I want to see the progression of the developer, what they've been up to.
Well, then that's a different thing. But yeah, I've got both games on the Switch on physical, so you could probably borrow both if you complete them.
I'm going to weld shut my cartridge on that Switch 2. It's not going to get open, that little slot. I'm just going to weld it shut. But,
well, then you never... Well, I suppose, to be fair, you could probably go on to the Switch store and it'd probably be cheap as chips. There's another game that's just come out, Little Bookstore or something, that I wanted to play, but it's not a physical copy, so I've not downloaded it yet.
Yeah. No, I like these sort of palate cleanser games, as I refer to them to. They're like you said, they're under 10 hours, usually 5 or under actually, and they are thought-provoking, a lot of them. I always remember playing Journey for the first time.
Yeah.
And really, that game actually, if you look back on it, I'm not sure what it even is about, but something about the way what that game is, I was like, that's really interesting. That's one I always think about.
I think that's actually a really good comparison to these type of games. It's different art style, but it's like a Journey type of game. It's a great
There's loads out there. There's like Abzu and the Pathless and a newer one called Sword of the Sea, which is they're all from one developer. There's tons of these games out there. It's just trying to find them. There are some drosses though. I mean, that's the trouble. You will step on a mine now and again. But then again, the cost and the time commitment's much lower, so it's not as big a. The blast radius is much smaller. If you get that wrong, but a platinum for Neva. Good to see. 2 last games, and you haven't finished these, so you can be as quick or as in depth as you want. Stardew Valley, and then the Switch 2 Welcome Tour, which should have been, I think, a packing game and wasn't. They were charging, what was it, £5 or a tenner? I can't remember what it was in 10 UK pounds to do. So you can tackle these in whatever order you want. I really want to play Stardew Valley. I've got it on. I've had it free given to me on Epic. I've had it free given to me on PlayStation. It's on many devices that I could go and play it, and I could also buy it for very cheap, but I still haven't put the time down to sit down and play it. But you take either of those in whatever direction you want.
Yeah, quickly, Stardew Valley to start with. I was looking for a game to spend a bunch of time in. And so I put Stardew Valley in, played for about 5 hours. There's nothing better than playing it on the Switch 2 than the Switch 1, or to be fair, really on the PC. It doesn't really matter the platform you play on. I end up then just getting onto Pokemon, and that sort of took over. I think with Stardew Valley, it's one of those games that you have to invest a good chunk of time in to be able to really enjoy it. It's not the type of game that you could probably do 20 hours in. It's probably the more type of game you're looking at sort of 50 plus, and actually, if you really want to get into it more. So it's sort of quite varied. There's a lot of lore. You can play it how you want to play it. It's quite chilled. Go at your own pace. A bit like an Animal Crossing type sort of vibe. Which is a game I spent, I think, nearly 80 hours in. But it's
need another pandemic to get really stuck into those games.
Exactly. So, and Stardew Valley's like that. And I just found, once again, another game I really want to spend more time in. But there's just other things that just takes me away from it. And I know that if I'm going to invest a large chunk of time, do I want to do it in Stardew Valley or do I want to do it somewhere else? So Stardew hasn't really pipped me a few times, and I've played it on two platforms now, like one that's on the PC for about 15 hours. I think I played on the PC and done 5 hours.
Shame they didn't do cross progression or something. Like it'd be handy to have it like that. It's one bloke that started this. So, I mean, he's a fucking raked it in now, but it's crazy that it was one bloke on RPG Maker. Yeah. I do want to give that a go. It's one of those games I know I will get really addicted to, but like you say, there's always something shinier, it seems, in Stardew Valley. I don't know what it is. Because that game will always be there, and they've made so many improvements as well. It's like, well, maybe they'll add another bulk of content or patches that will add a new, I don't know, whatever, a new business venture or whatever you can do in it, like a new thing to explore. But
so it's a bit like Minecraft to a certain extent. You have to really want to get into it, and everyone that gets into it loves it. So I think it's just carving out the time. But it's not a game that I've not finished because I don't think it's good. It's just a game that other things seem to come along and just take me away from it. Start to give it a bit of attention. There's not too much to really report there. The other interesting one was the non-packing game Switch Tour.
Switch 2 Welcome Tour. It's an interactive game, manual, about the Switch 2.
Yeah, I think there's a few things on this. It was a bit of a massive miss, I think, on Nintendo's part. And it's probably the biggest miss of the whole launch. Like, I looked at this and I thought, I paid £10, but I bet that not even 1 in 10 people that bought Switch 2 purchased that game. Now, if you'd told me that I had to pay an extra £1 for the Switch, I would have, and this was a pack-in, I think pretty much everyone would have done it. You didn't have to say anything. I think, like, if everyone said to you it's not $3.95, it's $3.96, and it comes with the welcome tour.
Or if it was 400 and it was
it came with,
it was just, you couldn't not have it. That's just the price of the Switch 2 was with this at 400.
I think they would have made more money in that way of just doing it. For me, that it felt like a miss from them financially, because like the reviews just tanked straight away, so people didn't want to buy it. The only reason I bought it was because I bought the physical version of Mario Kart, and it didn't come till the day after the Switch arrived. So I was like, I've got the Switch and I've got nothing to play on it. So
is that your fault, or was that the supplier's fault, the shop's fault?
It's the supplier's
Who
fault.
was it?
Well, Amazon.
Amazon, they blew my Series X on launch day. I took a day off for it. I was fucking beside myself.
Don't trust Amazon. Just Argus, the daddies, Amazon cost. But it was okay. I wasn't too worried. But it was.
No.
I still wanted to play a bit, but I just thought, oh, it's a tenner, whatever. I played it for a hour to two.
Yeah.
And there was some interesting elements on it. I can see what they're doing, but it just became a bit monotonous. Two, there was some elements to completing it where you basically have to go up to these whiteboards within it, and then it basically shows you a load of information about that certain part of the console. So it's it's teaching you about the rumble pack or whatever with inside. And then you had to then answer questions about it. And then if you failed those questions, you had to re-answer those questions again. And the way, for me, I described it to a few people is if you work in an office-based environment, sometimes you have to do these, show you a video for 10 minutes, then you'll have to answer 10 questions about health and safety, just to show that it's gone in your brain, and you have to get a certain pass. And then if you don't get it, you have to redo it again until you basically get it. It felt like that. So to me, it felt like these horrible things that you have to do at training, you have to do at work. And so I was like, why am I paying to be sort of trained up in all the tech of the console? That annoyed me. And then I think the thing that killed it, and I sort of put a stop to it, was I found out that you had to have bought more accessories to complete it. So you needed to have bought the steering wheel to be able to then use the steering wheel to do, because the challenge is using the mouse or whatever, looking at the screen in HD or whatever. And then one of the challenges further along was you go onto the steering wheel. So I couldn't have completed it unless I'd brought the steering wheel. So I was like, well, fuck. And
was
so
the
I just
camera an option in there to do something with?
Not? Probably, but I never got that far within it. So I sort of, after I'd learned that, I was like, this is just a waste of my time. And then Mario turned up the next day, and then I was like, that's that over now with. It was definitely the type of game that I think if I could have completed, I could complete it with a relatively short period of time without any barriers, I would have just done it just to have ticked it off. But even with the workflow questionnaire, I'd have probably been like, oh, but I'd do it. But then when I knew that, I was like, I don't want to buy this steering wheel. And so there's no point in me even. I walk away from it at that point.
I don't blame you. So is this?
But it was giving it away for free. I don't think I would have cared as much, but because I had to pay for it.
No, that's fair. So actually, I didn't reveal this because I didn't think it would be relevant, and I don't think Stardew Valley falls into this category. But there is a botchling bin category where games that you're never going to finish or have put down for good go in there and they stay in there. Like Biff does it a lot. He starts games and doesn't finish them. There's a botchling bin. So I'm wondering whether the Switch 2 Welcome Tour is actually a botchling bin candidate.
I think it probably is, to be honest. I can't ever see myself going back to it. I don't think I'm ever going to buy the steering wheel because Mario Kart hasn't sucked me in, so why would I ever want that gimmick, So it's sort of I'm never going to go back to it and complete it unless I get some sort of brain rot and decide I need to get 100k Twitch points or whatever the Switch is, Paul happens.
So at the moment, we're not going to put Stardew Valley in there because that feels like that's something that will be gone back to at some point. It's not being put down for good. But Switch 2 Welcome Tour botchling.
Complete botchling.
Off you go. That's good. That's something positive to come out of the chat then. That's what I like to see. I like to see the old botchling. Well, I think that's it on the Nintendo Switch 2. Blown it out hardware-wise. Done all that chat and then some of the games that have come out. Do you have anything else to say on the Switch 2 before we close it down?
I don't think so. I generally think it's a nice console. It's ticked everything. Not everything. The majority of things I've ticked, and it's got me playing more, which is always a good thing for a gaming console. So I think kudos to Nintendo. Yeah,
I'm pleased to have it. It will probably mostly be a side project, but I have saved up games like Tears of the Kingdom. That's a massive game that I purposely said I'll wait for the Switch 2. I didn't know it was going to be 2 or 3 years, but that's now got an upgrade. I think I can borrow the cartridge off of Adkins, and because I got Switch Online, the upgrade's free. So that's going to be my plan of action. Adkins is normally quite cordial with things like that. And I nick his, call him the library. I just go and take his physical stuff that I don't want to buy and borrow it. And it used to be like two-way street, but where I stopped buying physical stuff, he doesn't get many returns on it. Although I'm sure he's had access to my Steam library for years, so he's getting not too bad returns there. So yeah, I'm going to book some time in to do that. Probably maybe later in the year after, I think maybe Ghost of Yotei is the next big game I'll get. And then after that, I think it's pretty clear until the new year. So there's a lot of stuff that I can plan in, and Tears of the Kingdom is up there. But yeah, it's going to be there. I've got Metroid Prime 4 this year, next year. Maybe by the time we publish this in a few days, it's already come out and been shadow dropped or something crazy. But a lot of people saying there's not a lot of games for this, and I'm like, well, there is, and there's like, maybe you don't like the game. This is always the problem. You don't like the games, but there's enough out there, I think, to keep you ticking along. Now, if you only had the Switch and nothing else, you might feel a little bit shortchanged, because some of the ports that I've seen are not great, and the Elden Ring, I don't know if you saw that, it was running like one frame a second. But so that's all. It's never going to be a third party machine unless it's for an indie title or a smaller title, really. But I'm happy with this first 3 months and what I've got out of it. Donkey Kong was good. I'm looking forward to see what they do with it in the future. And the Nintendo Online system is so cheap that it's a no-brainer to have. And actually, I've been playing a lot of the Game Boy and NES and old Marios. I've been going through. I went through those. So I've still got the Mario All-Stars to go through, which I bought and never played. I've got a shitload of stuff that I bought and didn't play on the Switch because I got annoyed with the platform. So, yeah.
I definitely think that's one of the benefits of the Switch 2 at the moment, is that, yes, there's not much Switch 2 stuff that's come out. There's a bit, but actually the library is huge because pretty much everything in the Switch 1 is compatible. And if anyone turns around and says, "Oh, I've done everything," I call bullshit. Yeah, because there's so much.
There's a lot on there. But that's that. Nintendo Switch 2 blown out, and we'll get you back on probably towards the end of the Fantasy Gaming League, unless there's another big game. I mean, what's your thinking on that? The transfer window is currently open, so anything's subject to change as we record this and publish it. But you've kind of made what I would imagine would be your final kind of roll of the dice. Hall seems to be sticking to his guns as well. Average of 85 for both of you. You've made the same amount of subs of like points costs. Yeah, it's very close. Is how I'd describe it. It's very close.
I think, and we'll talk about it later in the year, I think a bunch of things that didn't go my way that I wanted to go, like some subs I didn't get because Hall got me to them. I picked first game and my first game didn't come out, so technically Hall had the advantage there and got first pick. So like, there's definitely a few things, but actually the way it's turned out, it's so close.
Yeah.
I don't particularly think it's anyone. I don't think
anyone's blown
me or Hall feel confident at all. Like, we're both pretty quiet when the other one talks about certain things within the game. No, I don't think anyone feels like they really in each other's face, but that they feel confident enough. I think what I've just tried to do recently is roll a couple of games in that should score 85 plus. Hopefully more within Hollow Knight, but we'll see. And then that'll give me 80s with my -5, and be in a position where just the pressure's on Hall, because my games will be all out by the 4th of October, because that's when Ghost of Yoti comes in. So then there's 2 months for Hall to be worrying, where I can sort of put my feet up a little bit. And so I think Hall's got a few thoughts to make. You mentioned Metroid Prime. I definitely looked in it hasn't got a release date yet, and so has he missed an opportunity to get a couple of good games because he hasn't rolled that dice? I don't know. I think there's plenty of still games on the table that if he did. So, but equally, I understand he doesn't want to roll the dice because that costs 5 points, and 5 points could be the difference at the end of the season between me and him. So it's very, very close. I think it's been quite an interesting one to follow.
Yeah. Just for reference, you've got Silksong, Hollow Knight Silksong, which is out as we record this, but the review code wasn't given out on the beforehand, so they will trickle in. They may have trickled in by the time this publishes, but obviously if you base it on the original, that was a high scoring game, and there was like a 300,000 or 400,000, might have even been higher than that, like peak on Steam of concurrent players when it came out. It like crashed through the stores. It's crazy. Ghost of Yotei, which you said will be the last game in October. Solid game. Sony, who have been a little bit now and again sort of tripped over their own bollocks, but generally produce something in the 85s and above. And then Silent Hill F, which was interesting to see, something I'm intrigued by. And if you asked me to bet on the Silent Hill 2 remake, I'd have said that's going to be a disaster. But that came out and did all right. This is a different studio and a brand new entry into the series. I think fans of it are looking forward to it, but
I did a bit of research before picking it, and like I said, there's plenty of games. I don't think there's that many games that will be 85 scoring to the end of the season, and I think this is one that potentially has a chance if it hits the notes. Like some of the reviews from people's like playthroughs or playthroughs on it are very positive, and the combat is semi Dark Souls like when you can up it and down it and stuff like that. So that'll be interesting to see if they've got that right. I think that's probably the one. That's the role that I don't. Yeah, that's the one that could.
That's the riskiest of the three you've got in that last package, really, isn't it? Like that's. Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know there was nothing else I would have picked, to be honest, out of those games coming out rest this year.
You avoided a disaster in Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater because I thought that was going to really crap the bed because I didn't trust them to deliver, but thankfully they didn't shit all over it, and it's actually I've played it, it's good.
Okay. That I was interested enough at the start of the season. And actually, if I lose by 5 points, we can probably put it down to Metal Gear. I had Metal Gear higher in my list than Gears of War, but I decided to pick Gears of War because I didn't trust the Metal Gear, and then ended up basically swapping them out because Gears of War didn't come out E-days. So if I lose by 5 points, that I can probably take it back to that decision at the start of the season.
Interesting. Hall's got Metro Prime 4, Slay the Spire 2, Anno 117 Pax Romana, and then Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD 2D remake. So that's what's on the docket. Transfer window's still open, so it could all change, but it's very close. Paper with 582 and Hall on 494, with only one game less. So it's it might end up being one of the tightest ones we have, but we'll see. That's the quick recap of the Fantasy Game League. Anyway, thanks for your time, Mr. Paper. It's always good to have you on. Keep me informed about what's being played and finished, and we'll get you back on again. But that's the Nintendo Switch blown out. So for everyone else, we'll see you on the other side. Adkins. Mario Kart World. Switch launch title. The world's first $80 game. I actually don't know if it was the world's first because things used to be really expensive in the 90s.
Yeah, well, that's true, yeah.
You go on that Index catalogue and there were fucking cartridges in there for
Index,
80
remember
quid.
that? Cool. Yeah. It was a blast.
Argos
from the
really
past.
just took them to town in the end. There was two of them. There was the Index and Argos, those catalogues.
They bought Index because our one was like stuck at the back of a fucking shop, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was the Royals.
It was definitely the lower end one.
Yeah.
Compared to Argos. And then Argos now is a bit of a... Well, they're still alive, but they're in like the back of Sainsbury's now. Like you just randomly find an Argos sitting there, just with inventory of items. Littlewoods owned it. That's it.
Littlewoods, that's the fucker.
They ran from 1985 to 2005. Many Index stores were attached to Littlewood stores. It was a well-known retailer in the 80s and 90s, but sales declined in the noughties, and it lost many of its customers to its main rival Argos. Index failed to make a profit in 18 of its 20 years of retailing, losing more than 100 million. Okay.
Fucking hell.
You put in fucking PlayStation 1 games in there for 80 quid. That's why you're not gonna
That's what happens.
That's what happens, unfortunately.
Poor old pups.
But this was the launch title for the Switch, or the main one anyway, was the Mario Kart World. I assume you got yours as part of the bundle because paying...
I did.
Yeah.
It was a conscious decision. It was all of the Dimp gang were deciding what they were going to buy.
Because it's 75 quid if you want it separately.
Yeah.
Like, you can find it cheaper physically. And it's around 65-ish from like Shop 2.
It weren't even that much. Like the bundle was like 30 quid more. So I think we effectively paid like 30 quid for this game, which is insane.
That was the no-brainer, really.
But yeah, I always had been, as you can see there, a physical Switch owner. All my games used to always try and buy a physical. And then obviously the fucking scrubs, my children, decided to start playing Switch games.
Oh yeah.
And just the thought of them just taking out them cartridges and putting them in their grubby little mitts. So little, they could. I don't care if they eat them, the little fuckers.
Well, they taste like garbage, don't they?
Yeah, but they're supposed to. Now I've licked one before, I think, but I think you're supposed to shove it in your gob and taste it.
Crunch it
That's
up.
what she said. Yeah, so I thought, right, no, fuck this, I can't be arsed now. And then they brought out, I've never actually tested it, but this game sharing you can now do, virtual game sharing.
Right. Yeah.
So you can send a digital game off to another console for 2 weeks or something.
That's it, yeah.
So I thought,
or something.
That's it. So now I thought, fuck it. I'm just going to go all digital on this Switch 2. I've had the Steam Deck for a while now, and just so easy, just installing games and not having to fucking worry. Plus, you end up running out of room like that.
Yep.
So
also, if you lose it whilst you're on your travels, your library goes with it in the physical realm.
Yeah, that's true. And you get Dimp members going, can I borrow that game? No, you can't. Piss it off.
as long as you've still got Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, that's still there.
Tears of the Kingdom. That.
You can have that.
Get the free up. Is it
I don't know what happens. I assume it's going to be the same as the like PlayStation Plus thing. So if I've got like the PS4 disc, I still have to use that to play the PS5 upgrade. Although, because them upgrades are free on that expansion pass, which I did buy. Yeah. So I'll be intrigued to install it and see if I need the disc. I assume I probably will.
I think it will work the same way. It will say you need to drop it. Otherwise you could just give it away to all manner of people. But
that's true. Very true. But
in terms of like previous Mario Kart games,
I
feel like everyone had 8 Deluxe because everyone had a Switch as well.
I also, in the hype of this, bought that expansion pass, didn't I? Which recently reviewed.
We talked about that, didn't we?
Yes. Yeah, I had a little review on that.
Deluxe.
So obviously never owned a Wii U, so didn't have the OG. Everyone had.
No one had a Wii U other than Salmon and Hall.
Nah, I didn't have a GameCube either, so I didn't have Melee. Was it on there? Or Double Dash, wasn't it?
Yeah, because all the ones after that were sort of like there was the Wii one, there was DS, the 3DS.
That's
Game Boy
right.
Advance had one at some point. 64, and then obviously the OG Super Mario Kart.
I had the OG, yeah. Was there one on the 64? There was, wasn't there?
Mario Kart 64.
I think I had the OG on the SNES.
Yep.
And 64, I think I had. So I remember playing both of them. But yeah, obviously missed all the middle ones.
Yeah.
Need to go back and get that rich backstory.
There's a big story there that you need to be getting hold of, all the way back to 1992.
Cool.
Where we are nowadays. But so this was the de facto launch game. Everyone either got the bundle or bought it separately. What would you say in terms of fandom for Mario Kart? Because there's some people like Salmon that are mad for it.
Yeah.
There's people like me who are a bit like, I could easily take it or leave it, but considering you didn't release anything else other than that fucking £10 tour game, that user guide, that interactive paid user guide, I had to get it, otherwise it would have sat there until DK arrived on our doorsteps.
That is true. I do enjoy DK. I do enjoy Mario Kart, but it's a bit I associate it a bit like having a hot tub. I think it's brilliant when you first get it, and then the novelty wears off and you just stop playing it.
Yep.
I did that with 8, sort of like when it first came out. I was like, brilliant. Played about 15, 20 hours of it, and then sort of never really touched it. Came back, if you had people round or kids wanted to play it, it got a little bit of a play. Then Salmon would bring up playing online, would have played it for a couple of hours. But yeah, I certainly would not class myself as a hardcore fan. I did play a little bit online, but it's quite hard online, so that fizzled out quick.
Yeah.
But I'm very much a person with a hot tub, one of them plastic inflatable ones where it gets used on the first couple of nights.
Yeah,
and then once
it's getting gnat bites and shit. And
exactly.
This isn't what, and then you trek back into the house of muddy feet because.
And then it all starts getting all the skunk on the top.
Yeah, and you go, well, I'm gonna put all this fucking water without fucking flooding my garden and my neighbours.
Exactly.
So that's
Has Biff got a bit? I can imagine Biff having one of those at terms.
I think he said in his old place, one of his neighbours had like a pool or something, like a large wall, and he kept emptying it, and it was all pissing down into his garden.
Oh shit! Yeah, I do remember that.
I'm sure he mentioned it to him. The bloke was like, "So."
Tell me why he moved.
You're fucking flooding the top of my garden, mate. So.
It's got that manhole. Just open that and just release the water into there. But
I
yeah,
check
so
his new gaff hasn't got one of those, so he's
no, it's all
hasn't
right.
got a manhole covering.
Got a lake in the park behind him.
That's true. And little scrubs.
He could go in there for a little bit.
If you if you dare go to sleep and.
I seen that geezer that was wandering around his house yesterday up the high street. Someone Dad said to me, apparently he was like looking for a ball or something. He'd thrown his ball in his garden. I was like, well, I don't know. That looks
ring the doorbell and say, sorry, my ball's just gone over there. Don't have a look over the fucking fence.
Oh, I don't know if that's true or not, but how funny.
We'll find out. Anyway, Mario Kart World, the big hook for it was this open world being put in.
Diddy Kong, I thought.
Well, that had, did it?
It was like a bit of it was sort of a semi-open world. You certainly could drive around and you could drive to do stuff. There was like little challenges and stuff. A little bit. It was a bit like this, really. It was sort of... I thought it was going to be like... But if I go back now, it would probably be fucking horrendous. But yeah, in my head when playing that back in the day on the N64... Yeah, you sort of added like an open world, and then you'd drive to like certain parts of the map, and then that would put you into a race. And then there was like a few collectibles you could find and challenges. So yeah, it did remind me of that, but in comparison of map size, I'd be intrigued to go back and have a look. But
yeah,
I remember thinking Diddy Kong-esque.
So that was one of the features. Another one, there was this new knockout mode, which is like not quite a battle royale, but essentially it's like F1 qualifying, isn't it? It's like a knockout
stage. It is. I've now found out.
You're in the bottom 5. After the first checkpoint, you get binned. Then in the next bottom 5 go, and you basically want to stay in it until you get to the last batch of races and get through onto the end. And then what else did they have that was
new DRS mode? Open up this. Got the slipstream still.
Yeah, the slipstream still knocking around.
Just need some downforce on here. Would be perfect. It's doubled the player count as well, didn't they?
Yeah.
That was it. It went from like 12. Was it 12 before? And now it's 24. Is it?
That's it. They've doubled that.
Doubled that.
And then they've kind of changed the way that Grand Prix works in the way it was advertised was you drive and race to the next track, and it rather than it being just all circuits, which sounded good. So all these kind of changes they made, I was like, this sounds like it's going to be pretty good. Now you've had a chance to play it and had it for a little while. How did these new features land or not land for yourself?
I mean, I really do like the knockout. I think that's probably the best feature of the game, the knockout races.
Yeah.
I do quite enjoy that, to be fair. The race, the doubling up the races, that's pretty cool. Quite like that. You got that new grinding thing as well. That was a new feature. Wall riding. That's it. To be honest, I think because I'm not very good at it, I don't really use it much. So
that massively increases like the skill ceiling. Like I've seen people do some utterly mental shortcuts using all that.
Yeah.
Like I never had to do it, and I was like, wow, for like proper players, there's a massive like mastery that you can do of each kind of track or circuit now. So I think it's kind of given them a lot to learn if you're going to really get involved with it. But yeah, scrubs like me and you, I'm accidentally grinding on things or wall riding things. It's never on purpose.
No, that's right. So those two, like, it's fun having the more players, but again, if you're not playing with other friends or something, it's not too drastically different. Just more chance to be knocked out, or less chance to be knocked out.
Yeah.
But I've got to say, to be honest, with the open world, as fun as it is, I did find that a bit lackluster. I didn't find much in there, to be honest. I mean, you got those little P switches that are just like little challenges, basically, aren't they?
Yep.
And then medallions. The costume thing I quite enjoy. The fact you can go around and eat food, and then you get each character you can unlock.
It's all RNG though, isn't it? So if you really wanted a specific outfit, you're at the luck of eating the right meal at the right time. I guess it's like a dice roll. You can't go and buy it.
There's a bit like that as well, cause and then it was like release. Basically, the fucking community realised that there was a mirror mode. And no fucker at the beginning knew how to unlock it, so he was like, "Well, if you collect 40, you don't need to collect that, man."
Like 10, I think it's 10 of.
It's like 10 now, but I think when that was it. It was 10 of each,
10
and then you had to
medallions that are lurking.
Do all the races, didn't you? You had to, like,
yeah.
They're a little bit lukewarm on it, as much as like it's. Certainly runs and the tracks are pretty good. They're quite varied. It was pretty. It's pretty standard, but like I say, in my head, I assumed I was going to be playing this for a lot more longer than I did, and the sort of novelty wore off a lot quicker than it did with 8.
Is there a chance that playing those bonus tracks, what was that,
Burn
6 to 8 months ago, maybe a bit longer, maybe it was last year or now. Could that have just burnt out a little bit of the potential in it?
Could potentially, yeah, because at the end of the day, the game's sort of pretty much the same formula. So that could very well have done. I've had me go-kart thing. I think if there was a bit of an online, if there was a bunch of us playing, then that might have been played a bit better and made it stay a bit longer. But certainly, when you're playing on your own, I feel like the legs to the game,
Did you play with anyone like Salmon or Hall?
No, I never did. There was talk of playing on it because I bought that fucking camera and have still never tested it out. Just sat there and like you
I don't think anyone's used it. I think they've all bought it and then no one's bothered to go on an evening on that.
You can look on there and it says only Hall and Salmon have signed up. Like you have to set it up because you have to sign fucking waivers that you don't call people's racial slurs or or bloody scream at kids. But so it says that they've both set it up, but no one's ever tested it. So I don't know how it looks poor the way you use it, like the fucking 20 FPS video thing, and I could imagine the audio quality is absolutely exquisite. But there was talk about online. Hall and Salmon said about playing, but nothing came to fruition, and that was it. That was when this was released. When was this? June, was it? Or May?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, so months ago.
Yeah,
three or so months we've had this, and no one's bothered to set up one session between the lads.
No. So I think I've played it in between 15 and 20 hours because it doesn't tell you exactly. So
was you just wanting to like unlock mirror mode? Did you unlock mirror mode?
Basically, that was my completionist setting. Yeah. That was it. If I do that, that means I've done everything then, because you have to collect.
You can roll the credits within like 3 hours.
Of course,
can't
you can, can't you? Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
If you just trophy in all of the standard Grand Prix cups.
That's true. Yeah.
It fucking rolls.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can go and do all the P switches and the medallions and all that and get all the costumes. I mean, there's stuff there for the completionists if you want to sit through all that shit. But yeah, I've got to say, after I had my sort of 15 to 20 hours with it, I'm sort of fine with it, Yeah, done. Unless it's, again, much like, once I pick it up, if you get a party of people that want to start playing it, I'm more than happy to jump on. Yeah. Or if there's any updates, I don't know if they ever do. Don't think they tend to have like events on or anything, do they? They're quite like, what was that, Splatoon 2? Do you remember when that came out? And then they used to do those. They used to do like a event where it'd be like, I don't know, fucking
PvE. Is that when it would all jump on and do like a timed like horde mode almost?
That was it. And then it was like you had to play like 2 sides. It was like hamburgers versus cheeseburgers or something.
It was like a season, wasn't it? And then you'd be like, and every time you contributed towards one side. That was just something to,
just sort of an excuse to go back and play. So if they did something like that, where it'd unlock a new costume or you'd have to get a certain team to win, something like that, a bit of an incentive, then maybe I could jump on. But Yeah, like I say, I don't think I've played it for a couple of months now. And yeah, I mean, it was perfectly serviceable while it lasted. I'm not saying it's bad in any way. I just think in my head I was expecting it to be the absolutely
The Forza Horizon with Mario Kart.
exactly, yeah, basically, yeah. That was a bit
Strange business.
Shame. What about yourself? What would you think?
Yeah.
Of the updated changes going from 8, because you didn't do the bonus stages, did you? So it's been years since you played.
Yeah, I think I played 8 Deluxe probably when I first had the Switch. It would have been early.
Did their nephews ever get you playing?
Yeah, that's true. I did go around there and play that a couple of times. But by that point, I hadn't played in so long, and I was at a bit of disadvantage. So
yeah, they would use those fucking cheats not cheats, but the smart steering and always driving, so they never go off the edge, and then they come first. You're like, well, don't know how this sits with me.
It's diabolical, the cheating that's going on. But yeah, no, I'm very much in the same sort of boat as you. I mean, it was bought out of. Just something had to give in terms of like the opening game. What did you as like the first major game for the Switch 2? If you were looking at like the presentational side of things, performance, does that give you some confidence in the machine?
Yeah, I've got to say it's difficult with these types of games because I mean it looks lovely. I've got to say graphically it's fine, but it's very basic at the end of the day. I remember us playing that Xenoblade Chronicles on that Switch one, and that was probably one of the better looking games on that thing, even though it ran like fucking horse shit because it's that old donkey Switch. I'd like to see if they do an upgrade on that. But yeah, just the fact that it sort of ran at a flawless 60, and it looked nice. There was even some like nice little sort of not ray tracing, but they had some good little sort of shadows and all sorts of stuff in there. So yeah, it did. I mean, it is looking at it, and just the fact that bigger screen, because it's such a bright and sort of joyful game, it did make it pop.
Yeah.
So I was looking at that. Yeah, I've got to say, graphically and performance-wise, I was quite impressed by what was on offer. But yeah, I'd like to see. I mean, I've watched a lot of videos of like Cyberpunk to see in like comparison videos to see what the real gubbins are.
How does it look on that?
I mean, it holds up well. Like when you compare it to something like a sort of Steam Deck, where you're going to be having to lower those standards, it is pretty good to be honest. The one I'd be intrigued to see is something like that Metroid 4. Yeah, Metroid Prime 4, just to see, because that what's his name? The first one, that was a gorgeous looking game.
Yeah.
So to see that running, I mean, they're claiming 4K 120 or 4K 60. So
it's coming out on OG Switch as well, which is the unbelievable thing.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
They clearly.
I mean, that ran really good. That sort of ran at 60 on that Switch and still looked good.
That remaster did. That was excellent from that perspective. Just a shame about the game design.
Yeah. Let's see what they do there. Well, but certainly
could
I've got
Switch
high
replace
hopes.
that Steam Deck? 'Cause I know that Steam. We was just talking offline actually, and the Steam Deck's just been left to rot. Is this now the new de facto handheld, or is handheld dead now for a while?
Well, the trouble with me is because I don't really commute or go elsewhere. I don't really use my handheld other than sitting at home. And then when it's a hybrid console like this, I just plug it in.
Yeah.
And then if I've got the Steam Deck, then I'm like, well, I'm playing a Steam game. I might as well just play it on my big, powerful beast. So they only really get used if I go on holiday, or away for a weekend or something. Or I should really get into the habit of taking it to bed, playing it upstairs, or when I have a pony.
Get even less sleep. I should get in the habit of robbing myself a few more hours.
Exactly that. I mean, to sit there scrolling on fucking Instagram, looking at absolute brain rot. Maybe I should be doing like laps on fucking thing instead. But
get some time trial. I beat one of those ghosts on the time trials for one of the tracks. Fuck me, they were hard.
They're really hard, are they?
Yeah, you had to I had to learn the track like every corner almost, and I was like, Jesus, like when to use like the boost and whatnot. And I was like, fucking hell. That was tough, but I did it. Because I thought that was part of the prerequisite of unlocking Mirror
cool.
Mode. I thought you had to like, have something, and you didn't have to. It was a waste of like an hour and a half. Rattling through that.
No, it's a good characters though. Like there are quite a few varied characters and the costumes and stuff. And the way that you sort of unlock the different like cars and stuff each way for you go through.
Yeah.
I quite like that. It's a bit like a sort of the old school fighting games where you started off with like 5 characters and you had to sort of play through the story mode to unlock them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I just wanted. Basically, what you nailed it on the head. I just wanted Mario Kart, the Forza Horizon edition, where there's just like abundance of sort of things to do, things to buy. And unfortunately, the novelty wore off. I mean, not to say I won't go back to it and have an hour here or there, but
will you be there in line if they release a track pack? Or...
Not day one again, I don't. It depended on what they were. I suppose it's difficult. Last time they did, I didn't get it until they were all released, and then
once they them, weren't they, for years?
That's it. Yeah, I don't play it enough to warrant buying it, something like that. But
probably be rolled into the online service anyway.
Yeah, exactly. If they do what they did before, then yeah.
Absolute titles.
What say you? Would you entice you to go back?
I can't think of anything that would make me go back. Honestly, I think I played over 20 hours of it, so it's not like I didn't. And that was, but to be honest, that was through stubbornness, just to get the mirror mode unlocked, then trophy every event, not gold, because that was
some of them were really. There's one in particular. I can't remember what one it was. There's one where you go through a stream.
Right, yeah.
And they had like the jumps and stuff, and then it's one of them, and I just found that one so hard to do and get gold. Fucking and the amount of times I'll be fucking first for ages, especially in that knockout thing, and then literally on the last fucking segment you get overtaken like at the end, and like, right, fuck this game.
There's a strategy of like not being in first in the game, because you just get fucked
absolutely
until like the right moment. It's like.
And I got blue shelled about 3 times in a row as well, with a couple of reds. I was like, sake. But they do sort of change the meta quite a lot, didn't they? Sort of change it up. Things are sort of too. If there's some sort of like combination that's doing too good, they sort of nerf a few bits. Was there any new things items? I can't remember now. They had like the gold, they had the feather that you could jump.
Yeah,
that was new, wasn't it? There was a couple of bits. I don't. But I would like it if they turned that open world into a bit of a live servicey thing and sort of added bits to it. I don't think they did. I mean, there's still the 200cc that they could release. You didn't get that.
That was unless it's someone's. I mean, by now they would have unlocked it. Someone would have found it, but. Yeah, that was a bit of an eyebrow raiser not to see that, because that'll be something that comes later. You think though, wouldn't you? Just get those hardcores all re-energized of it.
Did you play online at all?
Didn't even bother loading it up.
Yeah,
I
me
bought
neither.
The membership and then didn't use it. I don't know. I played Super Mario Land.
Oh, I was going to say, it's good for that.
Yeah.
Got the cloud saves as well.
Yeah, even though I deleted my Switch before transferring it, so it's a full reset there.
Full reset.
Everything gone. There's no it's I don't know. Because I play games more fully now, I tend not to need to go back.
No, true. Yeah.
But we'll see. Yeah. So that's Mario Kart World. Where are you going to dump it in terms of galleries? Does it get in, or is it going that self-storage to join the likes of Suicide Squad, Shadow Warrior, and Metro Prime Remastered?
Pretty much. Any top-tier Nintendo game is just going straight in the fucking gubbins bin. No, it doesn't have to go in because, like I say, it's more a personal thing that... I'm not saying that the game's not for me. I enjoy playing it while I play it. I just don't think it has the legs to pique my interest and keep me playing. 20 hours is more than suffice to, say I've done everything the game has to offer. I'm just not going to be playing it for fucking 40, 50 hours, unlocking all those little P switches and
especially when there's no like guidance on where they are.
No, I think there might be. Do they? Or they don't move, do they? So there must be a map out.
Well, I'm saying in game, like there's no way.
No, there's nothing on that. No,
you have to go online and find it.
Did notice is you can hover, like when you click on, because you can like fast travel in it to areas. That tells you how many of those. Do you remember there's like those star switches?
That's it, you can
tells you
drive
how
over those.
many of those in that area.
That's it. Yeah.
And if you find a character, it tells you how many costumes there are. But in terms of P switch, I don't know. Is it? I don't know how many would it be. Is it? It must be like 500 or 1,000, something like that. But yeah, I know Hall started to give it a good pillock, didn't he?
Yeah,
he got quite a few. I think he's played about 40 hours or something. But no, like I say, I enjoyed my time with it. It was fine. Like I say, I just wanted a bit more from it. It ran well, looked good, was new Mario Kart. It still had like, it wasn't complete different from 8. You know, it was just sort of 8 with a new coat of paint and a couple of new features. So, yeah, enjoyed my time with it. Perfectly fine. I'd probably put it as a bronze.
In the bronze bin. That's what people are calling that sometimes. Which I think is disrespectful, but that's up to them. Bronze for Mario Kart World. In terms of...
Have you reviewed it? What's yours say?
Well, in this segment, it's already gone out. They already know. I don't, but because we're recording out of order, I haven't decided.
Yeah,
but bronze, unless I change my mind earlier.
Unless you change your mind. Salmon will be listening to this in a couple of weeks, and he'll go, "You fucking how dare you put that as a bronze
on there?
That's a 9 out of 10. That is."
He stopped playing it anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say he's probably played it for about 2 minutes. Changed his profile to Daddy, and then that's it.
How have you found the first few months of the Switch 2?
It's collected a lot of dust. Yeah, what did I... That's all I've played on it, I think. Yeah. I played that. I've started fucking Albert's. It's happened again, isn't it? Fucking DK. Yeah. I started DK. I think I played it... I've only played it for about 6 hours, I think. I think it must have been at the start of my Formula One thing. So then everything got binned. And I'm yet to pick it back up again, but in the meantime, fucking Albert's hammering away a bit. He now has to sit in a different room. I told him I don't want to know anything. I don't want to hear it. So he now picks it up and he has to take it into the lounge. He's not allowed to play it if I'm sitting in here. So he's played it more than me, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, other than that, I don't. Since then, I did all the other stuff on my OLED just before it. I mean, that OLED is fuck it. I might as well flog that. It's just redundant. That's gone. That's just sitting there collecting dust.
They raised the prices of the original Switch, so it might be worth it.
Yeah, I saw that. That's unbelievable. Maybe I will flog it. But yeah, so I played this for between 15 and 20 hours and 6 hours of Bonanza. I will be going back to Bonanza. I've got a couple of more things I want to do, and then that's on the hit list to get done. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the trouble is, I think we didn't do like a review or a preview of the Switch 2, have we? It sort of hasn't gripped me by the bollards. It hasn't become my new Steam Deck and that. It just, I think because it's so similar, it's just like getting a new, like I've literally just got a new phone yesterday. And once you've like switched everything over and you know, like now I'm using it as normal, it just feels like the same phone I was using before.
Yep.
And this is what the Switch 2 feels like. It just feels like the Switch 1, you know, slightly a little bit more powerful, slightly bigger screen. But it doesn't do anything. It looks exactly the same because they didn't even fucking be bothered to change the fucking UI. And the only new features they got is fucking auto chat, audio chat that no cunt's got all set up. No. So I can't even test that. I've got a fucking piranha camera sitting there doing nothing. Fucking 35 quid down the fucking drain. But So yeah, it's been unfortunately lackluster, but to be honest,
the gimmick's up. Well, it's not. I don't mean it negatively, but the gimmick, we know what it is because we had the last one for
yeah.
however many
And someone
years
did say
was.
this, like the fucking Switch One is like now almost about to become the second best selling console ever.
Yeah.
And people did wonder if this 2 would sell as much, just because, like you say, the hot tub novelties worn out.
Yeah.
People know what they're getting now, and yeah, I mean, if it suits someone, if they're doing the commute and that's all they play. But when you're Billy Big Bollocks like us, and we've got access to every PC, PlayStation, Xbox, there's better options. The trouble is now where I've got this Ultra PC, I'm just playing everything on that now, and basically any console or handheld I own, they're only going to be for exclusives now.
Yeah.
So, unfortunately,
even less time for them.
White privilege.
Well, potentially.
Maybe not white privilege.
The sales of Switch 2 have been really, really strong. Like best selling.
Have they? It did start off really well.
But I'm interested to see what it's like once we get over sort of. I think it's past like 6 or 7.
Yeah,
it gets to like 12.
Christmas they do quite well, didn't they? Because they get their sticker Christmas bundle.
Yeah.
We haven't. Is there any? Oh, I've only got Metroid, haven't we? Got Metroid. Is 25, isn't it?
That's what they claimed.
Yeah, so we've got that before Christmas, but. It's once they start. I mean, like yesterday. Fucking Indiana Jones was announced for it, and there's rumours of Starfield going to be on it and stuff. I mean, it's cool. To be honest, one game I did think I might buy on it would be the new FIFA or FC 26, just because. In last thing, that apparently the version of it on the Switch was some fucking terrible. Watered down one where they literally just changed the fucking kits and kept the same gameplay, and I think this new one is going to be like a proper port of it. And I always, like back in the day, I used to play like Pro Evo on my PSP, and that was great. Or played a bit of old school FIFA. So if they've got a decent FIFA, I could see myself buying that and playing, taking that around people's houses to play, or having a shit and playing a game of FIFA. But other than that, any third-party game, I'm always going to choose to play on something else.
It's first party,
it's exclusive
or exclusive software. But they normally do a pretty good job of churning them out.
They do. To be fair, and with the upgrades as well, that's going to make me want to go back to previous titles. I started bloody Kirby's Forgotten Land just before, and then they announced that they're doing a upgrade pack for it and going to. Boost it up, so I'm gonna have to restart it now and see it for what it truly should be. So that will certainly get me playing it again. But certainly will be more exclusives. Are you on the similar ilk?
Yeah, it's always going to be that secondary machine.
Would you ever take it into the smoke or up there?
I don't think so.
No.
I find handheld gaming just uncomfortable generally. So I've pulled that out once because it wouldn't sync my Pro controller to it. So I had to put it out the dock to select it, and I've put it back in. It ain't moved. So it's been out precisely once in 3 months. That's how it will stay unless there's an emergency or something. But I mean, I'm fine and happy with it just to sit there as and when things are coming in, and the Metroids, the Donkey Kongs, Marios, and Zelda, whatever they're up to, having a look. And Fire Emblem. I've got old Switch games that I didn't play.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, see, that's the beauty of it. I'm so glad it is backwards compact because there's a bunch in there that I've not played. So it will get run-ins, but there's nothing at the moment. I mean, other than Bonanza, that's tickling bollards to go instantly to it.
Yeah,
but certainly perfectly fine.
Lovely jubbly. Well, that's Mario Kart World. Earns itself a bronze from Mr. Adkins. And I guess we'll be back on the next segment. Well, I don't think this will end it. Could do. Shouldn't have said that, because now I've backed myself into a corner. But we'll be back as a podcast collective at some point. This is either the end of the episode or it's somewhere in the middle. I don't think it's the start of the episode.
No.
So
You decide. The
audience-
fans decide.
The fans decide. Put a vote up. Go on X. Haven't posted on there in over a year from the Dimp account, so that's gone. Don't do any socials anymore.
No Blue Sky. That's the geezer that used to own Twitter, isn't it? Before Elon come in.
I can't remember now who set that up.
So it's someone like that.
It's
But
still
no
around.
socials.
It's not like I see a lot of Blue Sky still. I don't see anything Threads.
No,
Threads
Fred's
spun up.
Yeah, that was supposed to be the new Twitter, didn't
Yeah.
it? That really did crumble.
It's funny because when you went to download Threads, there was another app called Threads, and people kept downloading. It wasn't anything to do with no social media. I don't know what the hell it was.
Some bloke was just going, "Cool, where's all this revenue coming from?"
But eventually they put a note on the description of the app saying this is not the social media, blah blah blah.
How funny!
Don't be downloading it for that. Because he must have had a load of people download it and go, what's this shit?
Bloody hell!
Ruined all his metrics. Or a woman, she might have developed it. Don't know. Don't know the back end of that. That wasn't meant to be rude. Back end. Getting ourselves in trouble here. Anyway, we'll see you on the other side. So there we have it. September's Idle Game Chat is in the book. The Nintendo Switch 2 episode is done. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you got some good insight and opinions as to what's been going on in that space. And we kind of mixed it up a little bit with the guests as well. So the Nintendo Switch 2 is kind of done from that perspective. We will, of course, as always, continue talking about the video games that we're playing. So that might be Switch, that might be PlayStation, it could even be Xbox. Who knows? They've released a few games. And there's people out there playing them. But yeah, we'll be back in October as usual. The run-in for the FGL will start then because the transfer window will be closed. So all the teams will be locked in. And we're going to see who's going to come out on top there. It's very, very close, as we alluded to earlier on in the episodes. Anyway, as always, thanks for joining us. Thanks for spending your time with us. Patreon.com/DimpDigital if you want to chuck us £3, I think it is. I don't know what that translates to where you're living. Could be $3, could be €3, could be free, whatever. It's not enough to buy a beer. You used to say, yeah, you buy us a beer. It's not even enough to buy us a coffee, in fact, in London. So you're not even doing that. And yet, still, we've left it at £3. Anyway, nothing more for me to say other than thanks for your time and ta-da.
This was a Dimp Digital production.